7th, no, 13th. This hearing is being held as required by the provisions of Chapter 131, Section 40 of the General Laws of the Commonwealth and Act relative to the protection of the wetlands as most recently amended. Notice and time and place of this hearing was published in the Favorite Neighborhood News on December 7th, 2023. It was also posted in the town clerk's office. Persons wishing to be heard will be called in the following order. We are being broadcast on YouTube and also on Zoom tonight. So, first order of business, minutes for approval, September 13th and October 11th. Review of matters presented,
Ryan.
votes may be taken.
Ryan, motion.
You gotta say the meeting's being recorded.
He did, Pat.
Yeah, I did. I said it was being,
Oh, I didn't hear.
yeah,
Yeah, he did.
meeting's being recorded
Okay, all right.
on YouTube and
Motion.
I'll be quiet.
on Zoom. All right, so September 13th and October 11th minutes. I looked at them, I didn't have anything to change.
Do we do a roll call yet? Do we have to do that? Or no?
Any changes to those minutes?
Nope.
No? All right, so I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes from September 13th and October 11th as presented.
Motion to accept. I'll second.
All right, all those in favor, roll call
Aye.
vote.
Aye, Jim Souza.
Hi, Heidi Pelletier.
Aye, Ryan Resendes.
Aye, Eric Barrows.
Aye, Douglas Thomas.
All right, that's unanimous. All right, meeting mail. Letter to Josh Baraball, 7 Eileen Street. Review of matters presented, votes may be taken. Pat, can you fill us in?
So this was a request from the Board of Selectmen about some complaints at that address of a whole bunch of illegal activities. So the building commissioner, electrical inspector, Board of Health, conservation, everybody weighed in and wrote their letters. He was filling back there, so he's been ordered to stop filling and delineate the wetlands. That's all we had, and there was a laundry list for everybody else. So it's just been mailed out. We don't know that he's received it. That's it for that.
Okay. Is that something, do you have a physical?
Our issues are minor compared
Okay,
to everybody else.
all right, roger that. All right, right of first refusal, letter received from law offices of Nicholas A. Gomes, PC, right of first refusal. 474 Middle Road, review of matters presented, votes may be taken. I'll go to you, Pat. I got comments on this. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna share my screen here. You guys can see that?
Yes, we can.
Yep. So where you see my mouse, this is the property line of what they're talking about. There's something odd that this would be worth $500,000 or $600,000, so that's the offer. It's full of wetlands, it's got a perennial stream right here. It ultimately ties into Deep Brook right here. Deep Brook comes into the abutting property at 496. You have a pond. There is no habitat, no priority habitat here. It starts across the street. And there was some interest in, taking this land as open space, but not at $500,000 or $600,000 for 20-something acres of wetlands. I'll show you. Here's an air map, and if you look, you can actually see where the stream comes across Middle Road and then branches down here. It goes this way too, but what they show on the map is, and then it connects down to Deep Brook. But something more interesting that popped out is at 496 Middle Road, they built something in this water body. And I don't know what it is, whether they are keeping ducks or I don't get it. Because from here, it almost looks like a silt fence or a net.
Looks like a net. Yeah.
So we're gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and then on back to Mass Mapper, if you go to your flood zones, this house was built in a flood zone. This is the primary flood zone here for that water body. There is no, nothing going on over here with flood zones. But as far as wanting to build houses here, and that's what the person bidding on this wants to do, those are your Title V buffer zones. There's not a hell of a lot of room left on that 25 acres. So I had talked to the chairman about it. I'm going to talk to town council tomorrow. And we're going to make sure that something doesn't happen in this offer that we've looked at. It was $500,000, and maybe the potential buyer discovers suddenly that there's a lot of wetlands and reduces his offer to $200,000, because then the town may be interested. We have a substantial amount of money in our community preservation fund. So I guess that's it for that, Ryan, until I talk to Jeff Blake.
Yeah, I share
Unless
this.
somebody from the commission has something to say.
You guys got any comments on this?
The only thing I'd like to know, Pat, what was that address again of the pond that something was going on?
So that is 496 is the number right there on the roof.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, what road?
Middle
Road.
Middle
Middle Road.
Pat.
There's Morse's Lane right there across the street.
All right.
So,
Uh,
I was chomping at the bit when I saw this for right of first refusal, but at that price tag, $600,000, I don't see that land being valued at that, and for the town to spend that money on that, it don't make sense. So maybe assessed value or fair market value, I would love to exercise the right of first refusal, but, so I guess you're gonna send it to town council, right, to look at it?
Yeah. And I would say going forward, be careful if this comes up,
Right.
for an order of
Because
conditions or.
this property abuts Weldon Lane Woods down at the old mill, and it would be a 27-acre extension. There's a lot of development going on around Deep Brook, and I'd like to be able to conserve some property. A lot of Acushnet River is protected, either by conservation restrictions or whatever, and this would only tie in. I think it's a valuable piece of property for conservation anyways, so. So I guess I'll entertain a motion to send this to town council and recommend that we exercise our right of first refusal if, we can get it for fair market value.
I'll second it. You make the motion, I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye, James Souza.
Aye, Heidi Pelletier.
Aye, Ryan Resendes.
Hi, Eric DeBarros.
Aye, Douglas Thomas.
All right, that's unanimous. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you. Thank you,
And are
Pat.
you gonna check out Middle Road, or you wanna
Yeah.
schedule a site visit? We probably should get over there ASAP, I guess. All right,
You want him to do it, or you?
yeah, you wanna stop in passing, if you could stop by there, that'd be great.
And if you want to call any of us to go with you, Pat, more than willing to.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
So you can put on the boots and you'll carry me, Jim?
Not with my back, but I'll walk alongside you.
Yeah. I'll be in town tomorrow morning, I'll give you a call.
Sounds good, Pat. Thank
All
you.
right.
All right.
All right, new business. Certificate of compliance. Peter and Diane Longchamp, 159 Mattapoisett Road, SC file number 00100520. A request for a certificate of compliance was filed by Peter and Diane Longchamp of property located at 159 Mattapoisett Road, map 10, lot 9C. Proposed work included demolition of an existing home barn in the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland, construction of a new single-family home, septic, grading, and well in the buffer zone, as built provided by S&K Engineering LLC, dated February 28th, 2018. I was unable to make the site visit, so
We did make the site visit. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, he's a neighbor, he's a friend of mine, and I don't think that affects the way I'm looking at this. But he's got everything green, like he said. Everything's right to where it belongs, and his building permit expired on his shed. That is right in the buffer zone, so he's talking to Pat and going through Pat with that. And I think it's a okay, done deal.
Yeah, it's good.
Looks good.
Yeah, I think you did a good job over there.
Yeah.
It's more than respectable.
Yeah, he even tapered the two properties together, so there's actually a wash to go down and not affecting one neighbor to the other, and
Yeah.
I think he did a real nice job there.
Absolutely.
He's always conscientious to.
Pat, you made the site visits. Any comments on that?
All said, he had indicated that he'd had a prior approval to replace the shed down the back. And I just suggested that for sake of clarity, that he just apply for a $50 RDA and reinvent that permit.
That makes sense.
He was fine with that. Other than that, it's fine.
All right. Anybody in the audience want to speak to this? No? Anybody on Zoom? Okay. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for
Motion.
159 Mattapoisett Road.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Aye.
No, second. Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye, Jim Souza.
I Heidi Pelletier.
Aye, Ryan Resendes.
Hi, Eric DeBarros.
Aye, Douglas Thomas.
All right, that's unanimous. All right. We got a public hearing. Notice of intent for Kenneth and Giselle Camara, 12 Arches Way, map 16, lot 18F, SE file number 0010590. A notice of intent was filed by Kenneth and Giselle Camara for property located at 12 Arches Way, map 16, lot 18F. The applicant proposes to construct a new garage with covered patio, access driveway, and related site work within the 100-foot buffer zone of a bordering vegetated wetland. The applicant is represented by Rick Sharon of Sharon Associates, Incorporated Engineers. Their name is Plan of Site Improvements and New Garage, dated November 9th, 2023. Review of matters presented, votes may be taken. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion to open.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye, Jim Souza.
I Heidi Pelletier.
Aye, Ryan Resendes.
Hi, Eric DeBarros.
Aye, Douglas Thomas.
Mr. Sharon, the floor is yours.
Good evening.
Can I just interrupt for a
Sure.
moment? Do you have the green cards, Rick, and then?
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Do you have the proof of mailing too, or can you just send me that?
What's that?
Do you have the proof of mailing?
You need-
Yes, please.
Why don't I give you these and I'll keep those?
I need both.
Both? I have no record at all then.
I'll try to
How
scan
do I
them for
prove
you.
I did this if you lose them?
What do you want me to do, scan these into you tomorrow?
Just scan it to me.
Okay. Yeah, we probably both of them now.
just
One
give
for
her a
the
hard
proof
time.
and one for the
She normally
actual-
gives me a hard time with these things, so I get a chance to get back to it. I'm Rick Sharon from Sharon Associates, here on behalf of Kenneth Kamara and his wife. They've got an existing house. Do you have a plan of this, or Pat, do you have one to put on the screen, or? No?
He probably did.
Okay. Well, let me take this one. You can see from this distance,
Yeah,
this,
I can pass them.
He's got your map up.
not anything closer here.
On the ones I went through the walkthrough, we did see the map on Saturday.
Okay.
Pat has it up.
Hey, you know, okay, you're at the end of Arches Way.
Yep.
Here we go. There's existing house. We've got a wetland all in through this area here. Our line shows about where this retaining wall is. Okay, at the edge of the lawn in here. Our wetland line is there. That line was established back when this subdivision was approved. This lane was done, 15, 18 years ago. And the line was done at that time, but it's a pretty clear change in terrain at that point. So the flag line was reestablished along that line, and where he's proposing to put an accessory building is here at the back of his property. You see his property line running through here, showing the plan, running this way, and the proposed building would be in this area right here. It's 25 feet off the edge of wetlands. And we're also proposing there's quite a change in grades in it. You see retaining wall here, running a driveway down in this direction here along the side of the house to get down into that accessory building. So the building itself is essentially a 3-car garage, and then it's got a covered patio area with fireplace to put in there so they can do some outside cooking. There's also an existing koi pond areas back in here that have been developed. And this is, we don't know what the extent's gonna be in terms of patio. We'd like to put some patio back in that area. So it's basically trying to make a family entertainment area at the back of the property. As you can see, out of his I'm gonna say about 2.5 acres of land that he has, he's got about 48,000 feet of upland, so a little over an acre. And doesn't really have a lot of choice as to where he can put things. There's wells up in this area here, but again, not very private here. This area is very private, and as you can see here, this is a large tract of land that extends all the way around the backside of his property. That's never going to be developed. That's all conservation land, I believe, or it's got restrictions on it. A lot of wetlands in through that area. So that's what his proposal is. We had it staked out, so I were able to see the stakes when I went out Saturday morning. I'm sorry I missed the meeting. I totally blew it. But at any rate, that's his proposal, and if you have any questions, I'd like to answer them.
So we did do a site visit out there on Saturday. The proposed access driveway was not staked.
That was not, no.
So there's a little confusion involved where the proposal of this supposed driveway is for the proposed structure.
All right.
Of this. Is there a reason why this wasn't staked?
I think we had done the building primarily so he could see where it was, so the owners could see where it was going to go, so they'd be happy with it. So we didn't revise that. We left it there because they didn't make any changes. But we didn't think about staking out the driveway.
It's part of the package. Is the access to this large building that's being proposed.
Yep.
I think it would have been in best interest to have that access road staked. Like I say, we were a little confused because it wasn't.
Yeah.
We thought it was coming off of the existing driveway down those 4 sets of stairs, which is it's a good pitch.
There was a drop.
I don't know, guesstimated feet, Jimmy, from the driveway to the backyard.
Quite a bit.
Quite a bit.
And like I said, like he's saying, we didn't know which way you guys were even thinking to come in. But then we have some other concerns too.
Go ahead.
One of your stakes is right up against your stone wall there. That's not 25 feet from the wetlands. That's like, you could jump off that stone wall and hit the wetlands. You got a stake that's off of there. I saw the one flag that I did see, but there ain't no change in the vegetation or anything. So that wetland flag is continued right up against that wall, that retaining wall that's put there.
Do you think that's closer to the wall?
I think it's right up against the wall.
Okay.
I think that wall is the buffers of the wetlands. That is the determination from that wall out is wetlands.
And this is down to the very far corner, close to the property line.
The far left.
Yeah, you got one stake that
seven,
might be 2 feet, right, yeah, wetland 7, I think.
Yes.
But you got a flag post that is like 2 feet right off of the wall. And that is not even close to being 20 feet from wetlands. That is like 2 feet from wetlands. So me personally, I have an issue with this going up.
Heidi, any comments?
No, it just seemed very big and very close to all the wetlands. There's a stream running through. I don't know, it just seems like a weird place to put it. We had more land up in front there.
The front doesn't afford any privacy. That's the problem. You got the folks coming up, turning around in the cul-de-sac, and it's just exposed area at that point.
I wish the owners were here because I would like to talk to them. My own personal opinion, I would look at that and say this might be an in-law apartment that someone's trying to hide. That's what it kind of looks like to me.
No,
I'm not saying it is, but what I'm saying, that's what it kind of looks like. Pat would like to jump in on this.
I just got a couple of questions for Rick. Rick, you said the flag line was reestablished. When was that done?
Back, I'm going to say about 6 months ago.
Because the only flag I saw up there looked probably almost as old as me. And I only saw one flag. So I do agree with Jim that the wetland is right up against that wall.
We'll check that. We'll check
And
that.
if it's a garage, what's the privacy factor for a garage, you know, being at the end of a cul-de-sac? That just seems,
Well, I think it's because of the dining area that he's got built into it. It's an area where they can do outside dining.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. And there's no intention for anything residential, so anything, and you want to put a restriction on it, there's no septic system involved in here, so it's purely
Yeah.
an accessory building.
I guess my recommendation for the commission would just be that it gets moved a reasonable distance away from that retaining wall,
I know,
and they can decide what's reasonable.
I didn't attend the site visits, so I'm just seeing this now, but, you know, generally we have a requirement of 25-foot no touch zone, like just maintaining a 25-foot area of separation from the wetland, so, you know.
You have an intimate stream in there as well, Ryan.
It's very tight back there.
Yes, I didn't see the site, I saw it on near map. I looked at it.
It's pushed right to the limit. It's, you know, the corner of the building is right against the wall.
Can I suggest this, that we revisit flag number 7 and get that repositioned and revise the plan, and then give you 25 feet off of flag 7, all right, the revised location. All right,
Flag
That would work,
7,
Ryan.
flag 7's that corner?
Yeah, that's the one.
No,
that-
flag 7 was a little bit up, like when you were standing on that corner, it was like to the left and probably 20 feet off the
20
stone
feet
wall,
off,
25
yeah.
feet off the stone wall, roughly there.
Right.
What was that?
We had 7 and 8, which is just on the other side of the property line, so those two probably the most critical for this project. We take a look at those.
And just to tickle the stormwater thing, seeing as that lot is so big, and a lot of the wetlands is on there, the water's just going into their property. I don't see it, you know, bothering anybody else from the new impervious driveway and the roof of the building and all of that. Are there gonna be gutters on the garage?
In all likelihood, yes.
Okay, so can we make sure that those drain pipes go into a infiltration?
Caltech type recharge unit,
Yeah,
we'll do that.
something the Board of Health requires, and we should be too.
Yeah, I've been doing quick math here on the square footage of the new impervious surface, you know, plus the existing, you know. There's a lot there, so if you guys could do that, that'd be good. Anybody from the audience care to comment on this project? Anybody on Zoom? All right.
So if you want, you can continue this for more information with their agreement.
Yeah, does that need to be a date certain?
What would be the next?
You would continue to the next meeting, and
next-
if it needed to be continued again, you'd do it again.
Do you want to go out there to see where some of the members weren't there? Do you want to do another site visit, or?
Well, wait till he moves the flag.
Yeah.
Move the flag and you can also stake in the driveway.
I can revise the plan, get the plan in with the revised flag.
Yeah, just let Joanne know before the proper filing deadline.
And with the holidays, it's kind of hard to set dates right now, so.
Yeah, understood.
Let me get this work done, we'll get it turned back in, and then we can meet back up.
Do we want to?
Yep, that'd be fine. And like Doug was saying about the driveway too, get that staked in, so
Yes.
when we get on board, we see exactly what's going on.
We'll do.
All right?
Okay.
Do we want to have a botanist go out and do the, you can't just move a flag.
No, he's gonna
Well,
revise
they're gonna have a,
He's gonna
they're gonna have a
revise.
qualified person move the flag.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You can't just move the flag, that's all I'm getting at.
Right, right.
No, we'll check it out, we'll do some boring over there, soil boring, and just see what we have.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
Right at the stone wall, there is an imprint right there, so that's why I think it's right up against the wall. But have him check it out, check out the flags and go from there.
It may have not gotten as much scrutiny years ago when we did the subdivision, because nothing was being built that close to it, so.
Yep.
And you have a new commission, basically.
Okay.
So, Ryan, somebody needs to make a motion.
So I'll make a motion to
Continue.
continue this based upon further information on this project for the next scheduled meeting date for us. Included in that would be the relocation, obviously, of the two flags and another site visit.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
All right?
I, James Souza.
I Heidi Todd here.
Aye, Ryan Resendes.
Hi, Eric DeBarros.
Douglas Thomas.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
We'll continue that to the next meeting. Thank you. All right. Order of conditions extension requests. John L. and Christopher Ciano, 52 Morses Lane, map 17, lots 24, 24B, 24C, SE file number 0010555. Applicant Morses Lane Solar 1, LLC, care of New Leaf Energy. A request for an extension to an existing order of conditions, DEP file number SE 0010555 for property located at 52 Morses Lane, map 17, lots 24, 24B, and 24C. The applicant proposes to install 5 megawatt ground-mounted solar photovoltaic energy generating facility, including tree clearing and stumping, construction of solar modules and associated electrical equipment, gravel roads, and a perimeter security fence. The applicant is represented by Brandon Smith of New Leaf Energy. Plan name is Site Use Permit Set, dated December 10th, 2020. Mr. Smith?
I'm actually Mr. Connell.
Mr. Connell.
My name is Jared Connell. This is Brandon Smith here. I actually have a few handouts for the commission just to help structure the conversation. And
Thank you.
this project was permitted a while back, so just has some of the pertinent facts and information about the project to jog everyone's memory, if that's helpful. Yep.
I can't read this fast.
Pat, would you like a copy?
And
Volume.
I just said, in the future, they should send one to the agent.
We can make one available electronically as well. A lot of this is basically just an expansion of the letter that we submitted for the extension. Just wanted to expand on some things and help structure the conversation. So I'll go through a few of these things, and Brandon, who's here, can get up in a moment and talk about some of the design elements that are present with the project. This first page is just to orient the commission with the project location. The snapshot on the left is a little bit of a zoom in on the design, and on the right-hand side there, if you squint a little bit, you can see the context of the property and of the parcel within the larger area of town that it's in. On the left-hand side, again, Brandon will talk more to this in a moment, but just a couple of things to point out. You'll recall that the site in the project is bifurcated into two kind of large solar array sections. In the middle, there is a wetland feature, and Brandon will talk about this again in a moment, but this is, I just want to remind the commission, this is a buffer zone only project. There are no wetland impacts that were proposed or that were part of the approved order of conditions. Just in terms of project background and why we're here, on the next page, the project is located at 52 Morses Lane. It's a 5 megawatt AC solar and energy storage project. Our original notice of intent was filed in December of 2020, and the order of conditions was issued on January 15th of 2021. Hence why we're here. January 15th expiration date is approaching here in a few weeks. Again, there's no wetland impacts being proposed here. This is a buffer zone only project. On the right-hand side here, we can talk as much or as little about this as you want. Unfortunately, I'm becoming very familiar with these delays. This delay that impacted this project is the same one. I recognize many of you from being here earlier this summer for the same reason for our project at 251 Mendel Road. This was in the same Eversource group study, the Marion Fairhaven group study. Our interconnection application was filed in July of 2019. That was more than a year, or almost a year and a half before we submitted our notice of intent here. Under normal circumstances, that would be way more than sufficient amount of time to get our interconnection approval, and the project would otherwise be under construction. But what happened here, you can see in the subsequent bullet points, hold was placed on our application. Eversource formed the group study. It took them over a year to do that. They did not start that group study until over a year later in October of 2020. This project also was subsequently named to an affected system operator study. That's basically a transmission study that also needed to be done. That didn't start until June of 2022. Thankfully now we are through all of that, which is a major milestone for the project, for any project in Massachusetts these days, to be through its utility studies. Eversource issued our agreement just a couple of months ago on October 13th. And not only did they issue the interconnection agreement, but they've also finalized their schedule for their planned upgrades associated with the project, which is another major milestone and difficult to get to. That was issued on October 30th, 2023. If you flip to the next page, I put the relevant clip. The schedule that Eversource released did include all of the substations that were part of the Marion Fairhaven group. This one in particular will be connecting to the Wing Lane substation, and the relevant line there is that last row. The estimated available online date based on their upgrades is March of 2026. So the 3-year extension that we've asked for is more than sufficient to accommodate this project successfully. We, with all of our projects, want to line up our construction so that it starts. It's about a 12 to 18 month process to get these projects fully in the ground. So we would start the project would break ground about 12 to 18 months before that target date where Eversource is going to conclude their upgrades. So we anticipate with the 3-year extension that we would start construction sometime late next year or early the following year, in the first quarter of 2025. The next page is just a clip from the Wetlands Protection Act. This was referenced in our extension letter. It's the same thing that applied to our 251 Mendel Road project. This does say, this just shows again the commission well within your authority to grant this extension, and states that instances where there is an unavoidable delay, which we certainly think this utility delay qualifies as, that's prevented work from being started, that the commission has full authority to grant the 3-year extension that we're asking for. Since I'm not an engineer and Brandon is, I wanted to ask him up to, we know that there's a few other projects in town right now where there are some issues going on with stormwater and other things, so we wanted to go over some of the features that are present in our design of this project.
Yeah, so as Jared mentioned, again, Brandon Smith, New Leaf Energy, formerly Borrego, when this project was permitted. And just want to highlight a few of the design features and kind of mitigation items and design elements that we've incorporated into the project that I think will show that this project was designed thoroughly, detailed, to prevent some of the issues that you see in other projects in town. So first, I have a couple things. I only have one copy because I just didn't expect you to have time to go through this. But this is the stormwater management plan that was done for the project. You can see that. Now that was already submitted, so there are copies. Actually, Pat was involved at that time to alert us to the Acushnet stormwater regulations. So that plan shows that the project adheres to not only Mass DEP standards, but specifically the Acushnet stormwater standards, which are a notch above that, specifically ensuring that there's volume control in the project. Right. So what I also have here is a copy of the geotech report. Now this is done after permitting, and that is basically confirming that the stormwater design will work as designed. Specifically, and I included a kind of a copy or an image of the excavations or test pits that were done during that time. There are 10 test pits done for the geotech, so pretty thorough there. And what that confirmed basically is that there are areas of the site, as you well know, right, that can't infiltrate, right? They're not going to be able to infiltrate water into the ground. But there are areas, we were able to identify areas that do have satisfactory soil for that infiltration, and so the design actually takes advantage of those areas on site to ensure that we can infiltrate the required amount and detain, in those areas that won't have infiltration, detain that water and allow it to discharge off the site, kind of mimicking that existing water flow off the site. So just one item there. Now, as Jared mentioned also, as far as the design goes, wetland resources, we held a 50-foot no-touch buffer around all wetland resources. So as Jared mentioned, right, it's a buffer-only project. And actually, when that buffer only, that's actually only the 50 to 100-foot buffer that there's any work being proposed in the project. So that kind of 0 to 50 foot is not touched, no grubbing, no tree cutting, nothing like that. So again, kind of a well-designed, well-sited project. A couple other things just to touch on, habitat. So one of the things that we've been working with is with UMass pollinator certification program, and what that, if anyone's familiar with that, it's effectively, right, these solar projects throughout the Commonwealth, changing habitat from wooded, for example, to something else, and it's an opportunity to make sure that that something else is something valuable. So we are actually, you can probably switch to the next page. I kind of highlighted some of the design elements, but as part of that program, there's specific native pollinator seed mixes that will be used, as well as plantings. So specific plantings, and what that is, like 1 foot small, basically plants to give them kind of a step up rather than just seeding. So specific areas of those. There's also habitat enhancement. So bat boxes, bird boxes. There's some bare soil areas that we were incorporating that are, I think there's a species of bee that nests in kind of like a groundhog type pollinator, as well as turtle nesting areas, which are mostly bare sand, like kind of clean sand areas. So we've incorporated those, or proposing to incorporate those into the project to ensure that the environment that we're creating is valuable, even though there is the tree planting we take removed. And lastly, on the next page there, I just kind of a snip of the overall site plan with some of these items called out, color-coded, as well as the basins. One last thing to note, there were a couple potential vernal pools identified on site during our wetland delineation. We're willing to have those certified. Right now, again, kind of sticking with the wetlands, we're one of the vernal pools, we're actually staying out of the buffer completely, but the northern one, there is some proposed impact to the 50 to 100 foot buffer. So we're proposing to have that certified this coming spring, and if that is, in fact, a vernal pool, looking at design changes to minimize impacts to that buffer. I think the one last point I wanted to make as far as design goes is that the stormwater design used a kind of a peak rainfall depth of 9 inches, and the NOAA climate resiliency tool that the state uses to kind of evaluate other solar projects specifies a 6.9 inch rainfall in the design depth. So we're above what they specify there, what they look for other solar projects that go through like state permitting. Other than that, I think those are the main design. I don't want to take too much more time on the design pieces. I think I'll just pass it off to Jared to go over the kind of the project maturity.
Yeah, thanks. I can try to bring us home quickly, but there's a few more things I just wanted to emphasize about the project, just in terms of what we've been up to in this period where we've been waiting for the utility company to issue our approval. We've done a lot during that time period to get this project ready for the moment that we're at today with the Eversource approval and the schedule that they've now released. This project was part of a structured financing with DSD Renewables at the end of 2021, so it's a fully funded project that is now fully shovel-ready to align its schedule and move into construction to align with the completion date that when Eversource is going to have their upgrades ready. Again, we signed the interconnection agreement that was issued on October 13th, countersigned the same day. If it's any indication of how anxious we were to get that and to get to this stage. The investment level in the project for some of the things that Brandon shared with you, we've been doing things like the geotech study and report. We've advanced our design. We've gotten the EPC contractor ready to go. We've advanced our own schedule. And the Eversource agreement came with a 25% deposit. So all of those things taken together and all of the time and resources that we put into the transaction so far and all the site discovery that we've done, the investment level in the project now exceeds $1 million. So we're very heavily invested in this project and want to see it through to success. In addition to getting the interconnection agreement, that was our last ticket, our last piece of eligibility requirements that we needed to file for the state solar program, the SMART program in Massachusetts. That was the moment we got the interconnection agreement, we signed, countersigned it, and submitted for that program on October 13th, and we received our qualification for that program on November 7th. And the Eversource schedule now, as I pointed out earlier, shows the available online date in the spring of 2026, and our EPC schedule to align with that does show us breaking ground, and we plan to break ground at the tail end of 2024 or early 2025. Recognize I'm in front of the Conservation Commission, so I also wanted to cite a few of the statistics, relevant environmental statistics about this project. There are many of these, but this project, once it's installed and online, will produce 13.5 million kilowatt hours, clean kilowatt hours annually, and it will produce over 400 million kilowatt hours over its useful life. It is DC coupled with a battery, which is a relatively new thing in Massachusetts, but the battery component does bring several other benefits to the power system that just normal standalone solar projects don't have. It helps with renewable penetration, it helps with resiliency, it helps with, it brings a lot of other grid benefits, load balancing and other things that it provides to the power system. Shovel-ready projects, as I know from going through a number of these group study projects, getting to this stage is not easy. It's very difficult. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts has very aggressive environmental goals. We're trying to get to 50% reduction in greenhouse gas levels against the 1990 levels by 2030. The SMART program itself has over 32 megawatts of deployment as part of the goal for the SMART program that this project is currently qualified for. And if it's not able to do that, that will leave a hole there that needs to be filled. There are a lot of electrification and load growth projections. The Clean Energy and Climate Act that the governor signed in 2021 calls for 27 to 34 gigawatts of solar to come online to meet our 2050 goals. And then more recently, earlier this year, there was a technical potential of solar study that the state finalized and released that came to a lot of conclusions, one chief among them being that in order to get to that 27 to 34 gigawatts worth of solar, the amount of solar you can get out of the built environment is good, but not sufficient to meet that goal, and we really need ground-mounted projects like this to meet those goals. And an approved project like this that stands at a shovel-ready state and is ready to contribute to those is not all that common. So this extension is really crucial to allow the project to be successful and contribute to those goals. Just in terms of stats, this project will be the equivalent of the energy that's used by over 1,500 homes. It's the equivalent carbon offset of about 11,000 acres of forest or 22,000 barrels of oil. And not least among all the important factors of this project, Chris and John L. are here, who are the property owners. This is part of their long-term plans for the property and for their family. Once we get into the discussion, they may have some further comments on that, but certainly an important project for the landowner as well. So just to really bring it home, we really have been, a lot of times, if projects aren't in front of you frequently, there's, can be an assumption that, projects are dormant or that the developer's no longer interested in them or anything. That couldn't be further from the truth here. We've been very hard at work getting this project ready for the moment where it sits today, but for the unavoidable delays that we experienced through the interconnection process, the project will be under construction or probably even done by now. and we've incorporated a lot of design elements to speak to and to address some of the stormwater issues that we understand that are experienced on other projects locally, and don't anticipate any of those issues here. And we're very happy to, you know, there's another almost full year between now and when the project will break ground. If the commission wants to examine any of the stormwater features or the design elements or anything else about the project, the vernal pools, we're happy to do that in the coming months between now and construction, to bring the commission back up to speed or address any concerns that you folks may have. And with that, I think hopefully everybody is fairly refreshed on the project and happy to discuss any aspect of it that the commission pleases.
Pat. Pat's got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, we heard a lot about money, and it's really not about the money for us. We're the Conservation Commission. And 35 years of working with DEP, DEP never said, tell us it's gonna cost too much. It's just not the way it works. We're gonna displace 34 acres of wildlife. Pollinators, you know, aren't gonna take care of that. It needs to be looked into. We've got 3 projects that we weren't aware of when these were permitted that cumulatively have, you know, large impacts. We denied the extension for Park Drive because of new information with priority habitat and other issues. And I believe you have the same issues here. And I think that you need to treat this project exactly the same as you treated Park Drive. We've been advised by our circuit rider that when there's new information, we need to require new information and a new filing. And that's my advice to the commission tonight. That's all I have.
Thanks, Pat. Any comments from the commission?
Has there been a wildlife evaluation there?
Unfortunately, it's only for turtles and things. It's never for all of the wildlife. So, just so the commission knows, there was a MEPA scoping session for Park Drive the other night. And they're clearing a similar amount of acreage, and they abut this project, just divided by the power line easement. So one of the residents asked, you know, what about the wildlife? And the engineer said, well, we have a plan for the turtles. She said, but what about everybody else? And there's a lot of wildlife here. This is a virgin forest that between the 3 projects is over 100 acres. It's a major watershed for the town of Acushnet. It's the headwater, well, actually no it's not, but Deep Brook comes from the Sincarfa project, which is the headwater for Deep Brook, right through this project. They didn't get a good look. They were done in the winter. There was snow on the ground. They were done by Zoom. We didn't even have a full-size set of plans for the commission to look at. Not their fault. It was COVID's fault. But these projects really didn't get the scrutiny they need. And based on new information and based on what we now know, I think we need to be consistent. That's it.
I agree. These 3 proposed projects, they're literally on top of each other. They're more than neighbors. The potential flood for the existing neighbors, those streets, could be a huge impact to the town of Acushnet in these areas. Not realizing these 3 projects were neighbors to each other. As Pat stated, this was recently brought about, you know, through site visits, through, you know, information. I think this would be really detrimental to the town of Acushnet, these 3 sites located on top of each other to these neighborhoods prone to flooding already would be just a significant impact. To go forward with this, if there's a problem with this, in my opinion, I don't think we could fix this. I don't think we could fix what potentially could happen in these 3 areas to these neighbors. There would be a lot of angry townspeople in this community that surround those 3 sites.
I'm not familiar with the other 2 projects.
I don't see this happening.
What
in
what are
my
the other two?
opinion.
What are the other two projects? They're in permitting now.
Yeah, we can't really talk about that right now, though. I don't think we can
Yeah.
talk, that's off subject, isn't it?
Yeah, they're just, it's Deep Brook and Sincarfa, those are the two projects that you're
Not,
referring to.
I don't know their location, but or the sequence of when they were permitted.
So,
but
Ryan,
Yeah,
it's okay to talk about it. So Deep Brook Estates is in the middle, it's a subdivision. It's a 34-acre clearing as well. The next project up is Park Drive, that's a 34 or 35-acre clearing, 7.2 megawatts in that area. And then there's your project, and it's all, being deforested. And it's been clearly stated by the chairman and some members of the commission that no one's opposed to the solar fields. There's just a feeling that these were permitted rather quickly when solar first came to Acushnet. It was done in the winter. There was snow on the ground for the site visits, and I don't know how you look at wetlands. And based on new information, DEP says that we're justified in taking a deeper look and getting the right information, making the right site visits, and making the right decision. I don't think anybody is opposed to a project, they just want a responsible project.
I was trying to, the other projects are permitted already, like ours, or they're in
No.
permitting now?
Yes, and all their permits are expiring, this is what's happening.
Oh,
So
Right.
everybody's order conditions are expiring. Deep Brook's order conditions expired on November 14th. They didn't come in for an extension. Sincarfa came in for an extension, and the commission denied it for new information.
I believe they came in
And
late.
we're in a similar situation now.
And like we said last
And
meeting, we
just so you know,
can't-
Park Drive's going through NEPA. They filed an ENF, and there were over 90 comments from residents about the project in the NEPA process. So there was a lot of interest and a lot of concern in the neighborhood.
So Pat, correct me if I'm wrong, between the three projects, a little over 100 acres of clear-cut forestry?
Somewhere around that, but, we can't count on Deep Brook going forward.
Right.
We have to take them one at a time. But I think that in the ENF process, and I believe that if these folks have to apply for a new notice, a new order of conditions, that they're gonna wind up in the MEPA process because of the recently mapped environmental justice neighborhood and the amount of land they're clearing in the priority habitat. And that's where we'll get a look at the cumulative impacts of two large-scale solar projects in the same watershed and the same, area there.
so,
And Deep Brook will have to come back because he let his expire. So you'll get that look. Deep Brook was permitted in 1992. I mean, that was way before anything. So
If
I just don't want anybody to make the statement that's not gonna work until New Leaf gets to present, information that's updated and the things that we're asking for. Because that would be a big assumption that, there's no way it can work. Depends how much money you're willing to spend and how detailed you want to get. But
I just wanted to make, I guess, a couple of points, right? That the ask tonight is for the extension to be able to work through some of these items, with a valid permit, effectively. Kind of, make sure we're addressing these to the best of our ability, but we would like to have the extension. And we do have time to work through these things. I guess the other thing is that I don't know these other projects if they went through the Acushnet stormwater standards, because when we were permitting this, we were one of the first that Pat kind of notified that there were these regulations to meet. So, if they were done, they may not have met those standards. And as long as everything's
They all
in
did,
March,
right?
they all did.
yeah, I wrote the permits.
And
They all went through the same peer review company. We found out that the peer review company working for the planning board at the time was subbing the work out to another engineering company who subbed it out to a third engineering company. And the information came back with, 2 or 3 vanilla comments. And as soon as the commission became the stormwater authority and brought in their own peer review company, we started having 25 and 30 comments There was a big difference in the level of review. And that's part of my anxiety as well. I know who did the peer review for the original project, not your fault again, but that's what the planning board used.
So under your current order of conditions, there was a special condition to certify the vernal pools, correct?
That never actually made it into the order of conditions.
That wasn't in the order of conditions, sir?
It wasn't.
Yes, it is.
If you look at the recorded, or the copy that was recorded, what we received, it didn't make it in. I mean, we're happy to do that. And I do, it was discussed during meetings, but as a potential condition, but it didn't make it into the paperwork. A bit of a moot point, we're happy, to get that
But
done.
even if it didn't, wouldn't that be another problem? Didn't we go over last time? We can't even make a change to this
Right.
after it's already
It's
been
not in-
submitted, so.
Joanne, we had found in the minutes where Marilee had made, oh no, we watched the video. We watched the meeting, I think. And there was a condition that the vernal pools be certified, and I brought it up to the site visit that they were the first company to even identify a vernal pool in the town. I'm concerned that, and I have to say it, that all of these solar companies, they get their approvals, they talk about how much money they've spent and how big their investment is, but the town of Acushnet has an incredible investment in all of the open space and all of the things they've acquired. Millions of dollars have been spent to protect open space in town, and to not take the close look and to not have the opportunity based on a regulatory requirement to resubmit. I think we'd be making a big mistake just because of money. They can apply tomorrow for a new order of conditions. There's nothing that says they can't do that. If they've got all this information in a can and they're so sure about their geotechnical information and all of that, present it. But I don't think that we should be inconsistent. I can't say that enough times.
Yeah. I get you.
So at the site visit, I brought this up, Ryan, with Brendan, and his explanation was that he didn't think it needed to be done in the first 3 years, and that they'd be glad to do it later. And everybody's always glad to do things that didn't get done when they want an extension. So.
Typically, those type of conditions are, for my understanding, again, because it didn't make it into the paperwork, my understanding would be, condition of pulling a building permit, make sure it's done before anything happens on site. So, that was not any sort of purposeful miss or anything like that.
One thing that we would be very willing to do is take a shorter extension. We limit the extension to 1 year and do all these things in a shorter period. That way, if it's not done, we're back in front of you in a much shorter time frame, and you guys have plenty of leverage to exercise over us to certify the vernal pool and put us through send us to the more preferred stormwater review or whatever you want to do. I don't want to just have lip service about all the things that we are happy to do. We are definitely happy to do them. Actions speak louder than words. We will absolutely follow through on those, and if a shorter time period is valuable so you can enforce that, we're happy to do it.
Greg Sampson, I'm counsel to New Leaf Henry.
Sir, could you step up to the podium, please? Thank you.
Please talk a little louder.
Yes, sure. Thank you.
So, Greg Sampson with Sullivan Worcester, I'm counsel to New Leaf Energy. And one of the reasons why Jared's suggesting that is to maintain our approval keeps us in good standing under the SMART program. To have a lapse in the approval is a concern for all the reasons that Jared laid out. So we thought about the concerns of the commission, and one of the ideas was that a 1-year extension is not going to get us through construction, as we've clearly established, but it would allow us to present new information, undergo the peer review, and if a new notice of intent is required, we'll do that, but it at least allows us to maintain a permit in effect while we work through everything else as well. So that's a little bit of background why we thought of that as an option, and we'd be very happy if the commission would entertain that.
Pat, go ahead.
Just so we don't have a procedural error here, if you want to consider that, I would suggest that you get the proponent to agree to continue this to your next scheduled meeting so that you have time to talk to town council and find out what your options are here, because I think he's going to tell you the same thing. You know, if we took this action on one project that has the same situation, you need to take the same action with the next project, and I would hate to see you guys, and there's no better way to put it, but, you know, feel bad for this proponent and extend the order of conditions and get into a legal bind. You've got an attorney standing in front of you when you don't have town council here. And I did suggest that if he was going to appear here tonight, that he called Jeff Blake, and that Jeff Blake would call us and tell us that, you know, he was okay with what was going on. But
I did do that. I informed your council that I was going to be here.
yeah, he didn't pass it on, that's all. So, you know, that's up to you guys. But I would proceed with caution.
Can we continue this to the next
You don't have to make a decision tonight.
So, we can only extend this once, correct?
The regulations allow you to extend 3 times,
actually.
up to 3 years.
Okay.
You can extend it up to 3 years, but there's no limit on the number of extensions they can get.
Okay. All right. That's what I was confusing there. All right.
Would we open it up to public?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I wasn't making any decisions.
Okay.
Like I was saying, though, even if they did, we can't make no changes to that, you know what I mean? Unless you got a new notice. I mean, huh?
They'd have to amend that order. So he's right. To do all the things they're offering to do under this existing order of conditions or extended order, you'd have to amend the order of conditions as well. And we've had confirmations from the circuit rider that rather than do that, you want to go through a new order of conditions as well.
Yeah, that was my understanding from last time. That's 2 weeks ago.
Write that down, Eric, we agree.
Even though you guys say you can, it's not that we're not saying, it's just we can't. We can't change it. So now if you even said you were gonna do something and you don't do it, we have nothing to back up on, well, paper-wise.
The order of operations would be if you were to grant a 1-year extension. During that interim, we'd identify, you know, what needs to be changed, and then we'd submit a modification request. So that in that way, and Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, but in that way, it would be documented. Whatever changes were approved and incorporated would be documented into the original order.
Or a new notice.
We're going down a bad road.
Yeah, we can't.
We're going down a bad road just to accommodate some financing here, guys.
Yeah, we just.
And I know I'm minimizing it by saying just.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of money, but that shouldn't matter to us.
And like,
What
when was
matters
this
to
flag?
us is
The wetland delineation was done, I believe, in 2019.
so that's expired as well.
Well, it gets locked in by the NOI, but that's
But not when the NOI expires, and that's the other thing. And that was the other thing at Park Drive was the flags were hard to read, the flags were missing. They had an NRAD, but it expired. No, that was Deep Brook has the NRAD. But their flags were 4 or 5 years old as well. And I had that discussion that the flag line holds because the order of conditions is in effect. And you don't have the ability to go back and capture any wetlands that were missed on the site visit when there was snow on the ground and all of those things. And that's the problem we're having on the other side of town at Cushing Lane, is they're trying to tell us that even though you folks discovered a wetland in the middle of their project on a site visit, that it's exempt because it was missed when you issued the order of conditions. And that's another reason this needs the full look. Everett told us in the office that when they went to Park Drive, the engineers from Western and Sampson had snowshoes in their car.
What's the road right now?
All right, is there anybody from the public who wants to comment on this project?
I would like to speak here. Chris Young, 52 Moses Lane. I don't have the college degrees that these guys do, so I probably won't speak as well, but just wanted to let you guys know, we met out on my property a week ago on Saturday. For what it's worth to the commission. I know some solar fields in town are sort of vacant pieces of land that people might have for investments. This is not, this is our home, we live here. We go to Christmas parties, Halloween parties on our street with our neighbors every single year. Some people we get along with well, some people we don't for various reasons. When this project first started, I wrote a letter to everyone on the street encouraging them to come and talk to me about it. Walk the property with me, do whatever they like. My wife and I bought the property to have our farm, to have our home, and that's what we will do. That's what we will do regardless. We're not going anywhere. So, but having said that, we do feel comfortable with the people we're doing business with, and I think they are doing it the right way. We live there. We want to monitor everything that they do, and they've been pretty transparent with us, and I think they do a good job. You know, I understand that there's a lot of development in the area. I think there's a lot more going on with the Deep Brook subdivision and potentially other solar fields than with our particular project. I think there's been some lapse in permits and whatnot, so reasons to not grant someone else's, I think, are slightly different if we don't get our extension granted at this meeting. So, and that's legal stuff, but we're trying to do it the right way. It's a solar field. It's not 50 houses with another 50 cars going up and down the street. There's 70 acres in the back that we have, and it's granted, putting a housing development would be its own set of issues, but you know, we're trying to be good neighbors and do what's right for our family at the same time. So, for what it's worth.
Thanks.
That's
Thank
what
you.
Our next meeting is January 10th. This expires on the 15th. You're
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I mean, I don't
If you'd
know.
like the time to consider our revised request for 1 year and talk with town council, I mean, we're more than happy to do that. I just, again, you know, our thought of the 1 year is that if there are any issues that need to be addressed, we're gonna have to address them, because we can't build this project in a year.
Right.
So we're gonna expire, or we're gonna amend it, or we're gonna renew, we're gonna have to address anything that has the commission concerned, Pat concerned. So that's the rationale.
Right.
We think it's a legal approach, it's workable, we've done it in other towns. Some towns have bylaws that say 1 year only. So we've done 1 year extensions, and we've worked through further extensions with new notice of intent. So that, we're happy to continue that discussion or proceed that way. But we filed early, we filed 2 months ahead of the deadline in case there was an opportunity. We had to discuss some items, so if the commission wants to defer us until the 10th, we're okay with that, or we'll take the 1 year.
What are you thinking?
I'd like to talk to town council just to make sure we're being good, you know, I wanna do this right. Looking at, you know, I've done work with GZA personally, so I mean, I know, looking at all this stuff while they were talking, you know, there are some issues that I'm concerned about, especially the new information. Did this go to natural heritage? It wasn't mapped priority habitat at the time, right? So that's the new
It
information.
was not, right, it is now.
So, you know, that's concerning to me. The vernal pools, I didn't know they weren't on the order conditions. I was told they were. I just like to talk to town council. Me personally, I'd like to hear what council says about, because if they're willing to, you know, have another look at it, you know, if we do grant an extension,
I'm just worried about not having the written.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a separate, I know, I wish it was,
That's my fault.
I wish it was already certified or not, you know. I personally, I'd like to just run it by town council and continue it, that's my thought.
So,
But that's just what I think, if it's a,
I'm gonna have to agree with you on that one. It's either that or my other option would be to deny it at this time. That would be my two options,
Those are
either.
the other three. And
yeah,
kind of
I'm
affecting them.
looking, no, I'm not, I'm just looking at this.
Yeah, I know, but just,
At
it's just
itself,
unfortunate that
it's
they looked
basically-
into that whole other thing.
Yeah, I didn't.
I mean, I think their
I'll make the
presentation
motion
was
to
conscientious
refer it
as
to
far as
town council.
conservation.
Yeah.
Well,
So I'd like to make the motion to refer this down to town council and have them take the deep dive into this. I think it's worth a second look, so I'll make that motion.
Motion to continue?
Motion to continue.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor?
I, James Souza.
Hi, Heidi Pelletier.
Aye, Ryan Resendes.
Hi, Eric DeBarros.
I, Douglas Thomas.
Appreciate
All
it.
right, so we'll continue that to January 10th.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you guys. Have a good night.
Thank you. All right, stormwater. The Hazen Garfield Street operation and maintenance agreement, review of matters presented, votes may be taken.
What was the date on that?
What's that?
What was the date?
January 10th. Pat?
Right, so they turned in they had their maintenance plan, they turned in the information for the financial assurance. And they say for 20 years of maintenance, it's gonna cost $4,000. You guys wanna accept the $4,000?
For 20 years?
That's what they're saying, yeah.
You want
Right.
us?
It's a little on the ridiculous side because
I know what they're trying to do.
the surety for the stormwater, part of it is supposed to cover the cost of the eventual replacement of the basin. And you're not gonna replace the basin, 20 years from now for $4,000.
Oh,
And I
I
can-
feel like we're
I
going
can
back
tell you
and forth
that,
on this project.
The maintenance plans, and I told Dave to put a number on it, but he took that literally, I think, and we got a $4,000 number. It just seems, very low.
You also used another number as reference, so he had something to go off of. It wasn't like he just went off on a limb. And 4,000 isn't far under what the other one was. If you get what I'm saying.
Well,
You said the terrace was roughly 6,000. I know we're just talking irrelevant, but that's what you said, so I feel like he went upon going off that.
correct, but his basin's a third of the size.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying it would be $2,000 less of what you proposed. Isn't that drastic of a difference?
That's 1/3.
Do whatever you wanna do.
I'm just, I didn't see this, so I'm just gonna breeze through it real quick.
Jimmy, you want one?
Yes, please.
Pass that down.
Thank you.
Roughly saying mowing's gonna do 4 times $50 a time. There was nothing really about the replacement. I didn't see, did I miss it? I kinda read through it quick, Pat.
Maybe he didn't include it.
I didn't see it, I kinda was like rushing, trying to do more work. I was doing my work and I'm looking at the computer. But,
$50 mowing 4 times a year.
yeah, that was it. Well, like I was saying, either way, my problem is, if what you told us last meeting is correct, it doesn't matter what the number is, because he can just keep pulling the money out of it anyway, so what would it?
So it should be forward for 10 years.
Yeah, but you don't get to just
Yeah.
make it as expensive as you can in the beginning. The money has to last for 20 years. This is an EPA requirement. Whatever.
I understand, I'm just trying to get a better understanding of it, because I was saying that they could use the money to, do the mowing.
It can be for the maintenance, yes, it can. So how long is $4,000 gonna last?
$200 a
What I'm
year.
getting at, does it really, at the end of the day, if you're just pulling the money out, what's the whole point in the, does the number really matter? Because me personally, I don't think it would ever be able to be done for $200. I think,
Ask the fellow at Perry Hill Road to put up $36,000.
I don't get it.
So he's hiring a landscaping company, if you read this, right? And he's saying that mowing it is each time for $50.
That's what I'm saying.
Would you mow it for $50?
No.
I'm not, hey, like I
And he's
just.
hiring a company,
Well,
that's what I'm
like
saying.
I just said though, I'm not.
If
Well,
he
you're
said he
trying-
was
he's trying to
personally,
justify
if
the
he
money.
said he was personally cutting it, I could agree on $50. How much does it cost for gas? But he's actually literally hiring somebody to do this for him. And that $200 is to take care of cleaning out debris, cleaning the stormwaters, pond, grass swale, all for $50 each time the guy goes there.
Well, it's definitely not gonna happen.
Okay, so that
Just
number
a
is
lead,
under
just a
close.
lead cleanup is gonna be over that.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, it's like, I don't.
I know what you're saying,
So what do we
believe me.
want everybody to put in, like, it's just,
But you gotta put in a realistic number, I believe.
Yeah.
So is it $100 a visit instead of 50?
Aren't they gonna have a homeowners association?
No, that is not a homeowners association, that's privately owned by Robert.
Oh, I thought they were.
you know how I feel on this project. It's
Yep,
been-
I know how
it's
you
been-
feel.
It's been a little all around on the situation. Like, it's literally only supposed to be for the wall.
No, it's for the basin.
I know now, but originally when we made a motion a few.
No, the permit is required for the wall, but that resulted in having a basin that requires a maintenance plan.
Yeah, the basin requires the maintenance plan.
Yes, I get, I understand.
The wall triggers the stormwater permit, and the
Right.
basin was made to make sure that the runoff from the site did not exceed pre-construction. So, I mean,
You think, I'm just trying to use my head, that basin would not be needed for a wall, like.
no, right.
You know what I'm saying? That wall is literally like,
It wouldn't,
Well-
but it was part of the other design of the project. So, you know,
I think we're just kicking the guy in the, and, like, push
I-
it in there.
I don't have, you know,
Hey, you're not gonna hurt my feelings, Joe. Whatever you
no,
want.
well, that's the thing, I mean, it'll be maintained one way or another. If not, they're gonna be, you know,
Violation.
they're gonna be yeah, and it'll be an issue, and I'm okay with it.
We have the right to go back if it isn't.
Well, ultimately is if the, you know, the town doesn't wanna be held liable to maintain it,
It's
so.
private property though.
It's private property, so we'd have to hire someone else to go there.
No, MS4 stormwater law states that the owner, if it's on an owner's property, has to maintain it.
There is a homeowners association. All right.
Oh, there is?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so.
thought so.
Well, then I'm okay with it.
I have no problem with it.
Yeah, me neither.
So, somebody wanna make a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
I, James
Aye.
Souza.
I Heidi Pelletier.
I, Ryan Resendes.
I, Eric DeBarros.
By Douglas Thomas.
All right, that's unanimous. I'll accept it.
Yep.
Oh, thank
So-
God.
I just gotta get Rob Rogers to sign this through Mr. DeVignen.
Okay.
And he has to make out a check to the town, Joanne.
For 4,000, because the check that we have, the 1,500 is old and the collector's office won't take it, they consider it stale, so
Do we have
$4,000.
Do we have to make any of the check marks that were in that box about like, when they check the storm drains and all that? before we
You have to
go there?
refer that to Pat, I know.
Did you not, Pat, on that, it had like a whole checklist of like when to check the basins, when to check that, and nothing was checked. I was just, is that what I'm supposed to do?
That's what they're supposed to do, yeah?
No, I'm saying, are we supposed to check them off?
Nope, nope. That's what they say they're going to do. And we'll never know if they do, because there's no way to follow that up. But
Yeah, I know.
we did what we're supposed to do. We
I'm
gave
just
you a
look-
permit, you approved the fee, and that's the end of that story.
I was just looking forward to hearing it just for further, I look at all these projects and not just this project, but further projects. you know, so I just mentally know. So thank you for the answer.
All right. Discussion, Lake Street weed abatement. Scott Daggett. Review of matters presented, votes may be taken. Mr. Daggett.
So my name is Scott Daggett. I'm a member of the Lake Street Improvement Committee, as well as the other two members that are here tonight. We're here before you tonight because we want to get a very clear understanding of what we need to do to get the weed remediation done this coming summer. We shelved the herbicide use completely because of the potential environmental impacts to some of the abutting wells that belong to the neighbors who live along the ponds. So we went with a different vendor, Solitude Lake Management. We're no longer going to utilize them. We're going to go with C&D Underwater, and we propose to use mechanical pulling, so there'll be no chemicals, there'll be no herbicides, none whatsoever.
Scott, I apologize. I took you out of order. We had,
Sorry about that.
All right.
I didn't see anything.
yeah. I skipped right over that. I didn't see that. Scott, I'll go back to you in 1 minute. I'll hold that thought.
Thank you.
I apologize. That's me.
That's fine.
No.
I'm looking down, I'm like, hey, what's going on here? Where am I? Did I get lost? Did I fall asleep for a second?
No, good catch. 550 Main Street, site issues. Pat, review of matters presented, votes may be taken. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so, over the weekend, I got a call from John Walsh, the fellow that was impacted by the flood from 550 Main Street. They took out his well and stuff there, if you remember. And he said that there was oil coming up out of the ground in his backyard in the vicinity of the basin from 550. He left some samples for me. I picked up the samples. It's not oil. It's something organic that I think he thought of, looking on the ground, it had a sheen or something to it. But on the way there, as I was driving by the entry to 550, the car pulled to the right, and I pulled into 550, and I went out back, and they were there pumping from the basin back up to the upper basin. And that was all over with a long time ago. We told them to stop pumping and put it in frac tanks and take it away. Bates was there doing it. I told him to stop. It's obvious the basin's not working, Ryan. The basin was full to the spillway. And this is the basin closest to the access road, not the basin closest to Walsh's house. It was full, and it hasn't rained that much, and the site is vegetated. And it looks, probably got a couple of inches of grass on it. That's nothing, not that full, but it's vegetated. So I think that our feeling that those basins are in groundwater is correct. And I'm going to circle back with Steve Campbell probably tomorrow.
He's here,
He tried to call me.
Steve's
He's
here.
there? Okay.
Yes.
He tried to call me before the weekend, and I was aggravated that all of that was going on. My daughter was homesick, so I didn't call him back. I'm just curious why they were pumping uphill again.
Sure.
Hey, Pat.
Hi, Steve.
Steve, could you
State your whole name and everything.
Steve Campbell, Chief Operations Officer, Navison LLC. We are the owner of the 550 Main Street and the 352 Main Street solar projects in town. I see some familiar faces on the Conservation Commission. I see some not familiar faces. So those who are not familiar with us, last December, about this time, Pat, unfortunately, we had a major issue on site.
Yeah.
And Mr. Walsh was impacted off on the north side of the site. We ended up going back and forth with the town. We ended up fixing his water line, connecting him to the town. We went under enforcement order, we went under cease and desist from the planning board, we went under cease and desist from the Board of Health, all warranted. We didn't do a good job maintaining stormwater at the beginning of the site. Ryan, you remember this?
Yeah.
Ms. Peltier, you remember this? We were given orders not to discharge water from the site, which we stopped doing. We plugged all the basin holes, we brought in 22 frac tanks, we pumped over $700,000 worth of water off that site, the remainder of March, April. We worked with, Pat and I worked together in other town, and I went to the Board of Selectmen, said, we're owning up to this, we'll do what we need to do to get this fixed. We did everything we said we were gonna do. We spent, you wanna talk about money, I spent $2 million doing this, and that's not you, that's me. So we fixed what we were gonna do. We worked with the commission, GAF review engineers came in, reviewed this, we worked with Pat, revised the entire stormwater management permit, went through the summer. We finally got to the point where we came to an agreement on how we were gonna work. That included getting grass on the site. And that was, we went back to construction, we got finished, we went through our COC. So Pat, I'm happy to hear that what came up on the Walsh's property was nothing, because what I'm here to tell you tonight is the reason that the basins are full, the basins are still plugged. We're not discharging. We haven't discharged since January of last year, unless we were allowed to via pump, which happened in April or May. And what we were doing with pump, hold on a second.
Permission to discharge.
What's that? So I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. I'm not 100% convinced, and our team wasn't 100% convinced that there was enough grass on the site to allow discharge. That we were worried about the site. So what we've been doing all summer is not discharging, maintaining everything on site or letting it infiltrate. We got the storm last Monday, Tuesday, and we saw the storm coming this weekend. So we started pumping to get volume back down on the bottom. There's 6 frac tanks back out, and I can supply pictures. Pat, if you went out again, there's 6 frac tanks out there now. We've pumped 240,000 gallons off-site over the past 2 days because we're trying to get ready for Sunday's storm. So we're doing exactly.
It was an accident that I went there, Steve.
What's that?
It was an accident that I went there.
And Pat, it's unfortunate. I wish you would call me back because I could have. And it's good because new members of the commission, we take this extremely seriously, and we're not. Yeah. We said what we're going to do. If there was a problem, I wanted to know what it was, so we could help fix it. And everything we're doing, the water's staying on the site, and I'm here tonight to say that. So happy to answer any questions from the new members. And Pat, I think you just didn't understand what was going on because we still have plugs. So.
Yeah, but my big thing was we weren't supposed to be pumping uphill anymore.
Yep.
And then I left thinking that the basin wasn't working.
Yep.
And then, you know, my favorite contractor was there doing the work.
I know, and that's why.
So
I understand Pat with his situation with his daughter, and that was fine. As soon as we heard from Bates that Pat was out there and he got upset, I called him Thursday afternoon, and then I followed up with an email, and I followed up with an email on Friday saying, hey, I'd really like to talk to you about this. My construction VP, Mark Anderson, who some of you have known, he called Pat on Friday. So we were reaching out as soon as we found out there was an issue, trying to get this resolved. So.
That's true, but I wouldn't answer my phone. So.
You gotta stop doing that.
You don't answer my calls either.
So, I didn't want anything to come out of that. That's why I drove down tonight. I saw that we were on the agenda. I saw we were talking about this, and we were concerned that we were doing something.
So when do you think you're gonna be able to discharge?
We're working on that right now, Pat. I would love to talk with you about that. If we want to talk tomorrow, we could talk about that.
Yeah. If you want to call me tomorrow, give me a shout. I'll grab it.
Okay. Because what honestly, last year scared the hell out of me with what happened, and I'm afraid to discharge a little bit right now. I don't want anything bad.
A little gun shy.
I'm a little gun shy. And so,
rightfully so.
Yeah. But Mr. Chairman, I hope you can tell the others.
Yeah,
we did exactly what we said. You know, we've been
upfront
on this from the get-go. So.
Are you going to take a vote?
No.
Yes.
I think that's a good explanation as to why they were pumping. So, yeah, you know, talk to Pat. Just stay in contact. Keep him informed.
Yeah.
I don't want Pat here to knock on my door either.
No.
I've seen him before.
Pat, when are you in the office tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm in the office tomorrow, yes.
Okay, what time is it?
I have to go look at some silt fence in the middle of a
Yeah.
pond.
Okay, I saw that. I'll,
Yeah, true.
Call first thing in the morning.
I know. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
No.
All right. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Have a great evening.
All right.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Steve, don't forget your briefcase.
I only brought a notebook this time.
Have a good one.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, back on schedule. Lake Street weed abatement, Scott Daggett. Review of matters been, votes may be taken. I'm sorry, Scott. I apologize. I don't want to get in trouble for going out of order.
Okay, so my name is Scott Daggett. I am a member of the Lake Street Improvement Committee. There are two other fellow members here today as well. We're before you today so that we can get some guidance as to what we need to do to get the remediation started. We've had some missteps over the last 3 years or so because as a committee we've been together 3 years trying to get this going. Initially we wanted to do herbicide use. There was a lot of pushback on that, rightfully so. We discovered that if we did use herbicides, it would have impacted two of the cranberry growers who take their irrigation water from the lakes and irrigate their crops with it, and the potential damage to private wells on the abutting properties. So we completely shelved the whole idea of using herbicides. I had spoken to Bill Napolitano from Serpide. He was involved with the weed remediation over at Long Pond. The company that they had used was C&D Underwater out of Connecticut. So Bill had put me into contact with Jeff, who is one of the owners of the company. He and I did a site visit back in August. Looked at the lakes, looked at the ponds. He was completely shocked at how bad they are. As you probably all well know, that in the summertime those weeds just grow exponentially. They are extremely dense, heavy mats. Some of them are, almost look like small islands. It's something that we need to do. If we leave those ponds alone, they're just going to revert back to a river given enough time. So what we need from you is we need to know, first of all, who is going to submit or put together the notice of intent, because I realized that the notice of intent that Solitude had done is no longer valid. So we need to submit a new notice of intent before any work can be done out there. So step one is who's responsible for putting that together? Would that be the contractor or would that be the town? I believe that Jeff is with us tonight on Zoom, just in case if there are any questions concerning any of the processors as to how this is going to be done. So if you have any questions for Jeff, please have at it.
Now, my understanding was we had to go to New Bedford first, or you people have to bring it to New Bedford first. Is that correct?
So what I did was, as a courtesy, I contacted the New Bedford Conservation Commission to let them know that we were going to have this meeting tonight so that we have some transparency. The way that I personally feel about it, my personal feelings, New Bedford can't see it from their backyard. They've neglected these backup reservoirs, if you want to call them that, for decades. In 2017, I called the state trying to get some information as to how we can go about cleaning up these ponds, because I'm a fisherman. I love fishing there. It's one of my favorite places. The state told us that, well, it's not a state-owned property, so we can't help you. Back in the past, when Roger Cabral was a selectman, he and I were together when it came to trying to stop the LNG facility from expanding. So kind of as a side thing, I said, one thing that I've been passionate about is trying to get the lakes at Lake Street cleaned up. And he and I were in agreement on that, and then when he left, Selectman Woolner came in back into office, and that was something that's been a passion of his for many years. He heard that I had a similar passion for trying to clean up the lakes. So we created this committee. It's been about 3 years now or so, and we're diligently trying to get these ponds cleaned up. And like I said, New Bedford, they own it. They own the property between the two lakes, whereas, the common parking area is. And, through some negotiation, they have allowed us to be able to go ahead and maintain and improve some of the areas. So you've seen a lot of the safety improvements, a lot of the guardrails, sidewalks, clearing of some of the edges so that fishermen can actually, fish in some of the areas. But like I explained to the selectmen at one point, there's no sense in doing all that if some father's gonna bring his son to go fishing and they wanna drown some shiners or mumpers, and they can't catch any fish because the bait is sitting on top of the weeds. Avid fishermen, yeah, you know how to fish stuff like that, but for the casual person, they're not gonna know how to fish that. They're gonna get discouraged, they're not gonna come back. What we wanna do is improve it so that it can be the way that I remember it being when I was a teenager, where it was nice and clear, the water was, I used to swim there.
I was gonna say, a lot of kids used to swim there.
I used to swim there, the water was beautifully clean, it was a beautiful area. We want to try to get it back to that place, not necessarily to swim in, but for people to enjoy. We have a lot of plans and a lot of concepts that we're looking into that will bring people in, so that they can actually enjoy one of the natural beauties that we have here in town. So I just need some guidance. We need some guidance as to what we need to do so that Jeff and his crew can come in here this summer and start doing some of the weed remediation.
All right.
So my first question to you is, what was the response from the town of New Bedford's representative to you?
So I believe that they had a very positive outlook because it's their property and the town is actually paying to manage their property. So our funds that have been approved through town meetings for the last 3 years, the town of Acushnet is actually going to spend money to take care of and maintain property owned by the city of New Bedford, I believe, for 25 years, because I think we have a 25-year agreement.
Right. All right, so let me just ask Pat, in your opinion, who's responsible for filing this notice of intent? It would be the town of Acushnet, correct?
Who's responsible for filing it? It's New Bedford's property.
Especially with renting it.
I know New Bedford has to sign it. I guess Jamie Kelly would be the one that would, he's the chief executive officer of the town, if it's gonna be a town application.
Yep.
So he would be the one that would sign it.
And co-signed by New Bedford?
And maybe co-signed by New Bedford, or a letter from New Bedford authorizing Jamie Kelly to sign it.
Do we have anybody from New Bedford here, you said?
But
There's
the bigger issue,
There's a gentleman here.
the bigger issue is,
Excuse me, Pat, sorry.
the bigger issue here is that we're not, I'm not qualified, and I don't think any of our commissioners are qualified to tell them everything they need to do out there. They need to get a consultant, and maybe they're, the fellow from C&D, he's in the business, he can guide them through doing what they need to file to make the project successful. It's not something we can do, because if we miss something, we're gonna be told, well, this is what you told us to do, and we don't wanna do that. But the other side of it is something that maybe we lost sight of, is this is a Class A reservoir, surface water supply, still permitted, still active. And I don't know what considerations that takes for the weed abatement. If that adds another layer or anything, because that was made loud and clear from Chance at New Bedford. So it's not as simple as us just telling them what to do. Zenith was involved in this, Scott. Zenith could fill out the notice of intent and have Jamie sign it. Zenith had some plans for the improvements were done there, so there must be some kind of a deal with Zenith.
Yeah, I think what Zenith had done was they had pretty much configured the parking
Yeah,
areas.
they did the sidewalks and guide rails and stuff, but, you know, Zenith does a lot of wetlands work in town.
Which all the stormwater from there, horribly. Look at the road every morning when it rains, it's horrible over there.
I haven't been down there.
Oh, it was horrible, yes, the other day I went down going on the way to work.
All right, so,
Can we get Jeff in? Jeff, how you doing?
I'm good,
how are you?
Good. So, you run this, you, one of the owners of the business?
I am. I'm one of 3 owners of the company.
Okay, so what steps do you normally take to go forward on a project like this?
So what we normally do is, we obviously do a site visit, meet with the people that are involved, either the towns, the municipalities, or individual property owners, homeowners associations. From there, the people that have requested us to come in, they will either do the notice of intent if it's needed, or they will get the necessary permitting from the individual town or the state. We, as the contractor, have never had to go out and do the notice of intent, mainly because we're not the ones responsible.
Correct.
So we can't speak on the town's behalf.
That makes sense.
Similar to a building, you know, I can't take out a building permit on your property.
Correct.
That's how we've done it in the past.
So their notice of intent would have to come right from the town then, like Pat was saying?
I would, yes, and as far as that gray area is concerned about whether it's New Bedford or Acushnet, it almost sounds like, at the 1,000-foot view, it sounds like New Bedford is kind of hands-off, and they don't have much of a stake in the game. I mean, I know you guys have dumped so much money into beautifying that area.
They actually, in their MOU, they require everything to be approved by them before it's done.
So I think it would be a combination effort of New Bedford and Acushnet.
To get together and do it together.
Yeah.
I guess my point, Ryan, is we can't be the engineers. They're gonna need their own engineer.
Why don't we listen to Chance, if you could come up and speak on the
New Bedford side?
New Bedford side, and see where his stands.
Excuse me, folks. Good evening. My name is Chance Burks, Conservation Agent, City of New Bedford. I was made aware of this filing by Scott here. I'm not here to make any official statement on the City of New Bedford. I'm really just the eyes and the ears. From conservation to conservation, I see us hopefully working more closely in the future. I have no, and conservation has no bearing on this filing. I'd be happy to answer any questions of what we would do in New Bedford in this kind of situation. I'm here to take back any messages from you folks directly, and we can continue this conversation. Again, I appreciate you making me aware of the situation that you folks are in. I think all parties, one thing I can say, I think all parties are looking for Lake Street to be improved and be remediated. How that goes about is to be discussed. So I'd be happy to answer any specific questions you folks may have, but I'm not here with any official statements on behalf of the city.
So is New Bedford kind of saying, well, Acushnet, here's the lakes, do what you want, or is New Bedford saying, okay, we're willing to get involved with you?
I can't answer either one of those through casual conversation, only because I'm not versed on the MOU between both towns.
Yep.
So that's whatever. Say it again?
Hey, Chance?
Yes, sir.
Who is the point person that the Lake Street Committee would want to talk to make sure that there's some communication between the two towns and we get this,
Off on the right foot.
Jamie Pont, Commissioner of DPI, Department of Public Infrastructure, who I believe Scott has been in contact with.
So you've already talked to him, Scott?
So I spoke to Jamie Pont when Selectman Woolner and I went to,
You mind standing
I
up,
believe it
please?
was, oh yes, please.
You can stand together, guys, it's all right.
So Selectman Woolner and I had gone to the meeting in which the MOU had been approved. So I had spoken to Jamie Pont at that time, but not in any technical or reference to what we need to do with the ponds. I can certainly contact Jamie Pont, speak to him and find out, you know, his guidance along with your guidance, work together and, you know, figure out what we can do.
Well, if we need signatures from both sides, which it kind of sounds like to me, we kind of do. So you're definitely going to have to talk to Jamie Pont and say, hey, listen, what can we do? Let's get the notice of intent, whether it's through Mr. Kelly, you know what I mean? It's like, I believe that both parties are going to have to sign this from what Pat was saying. Kind of agreed, Pat?
Or at least, you know, an email from the town saying, you know, we concur, or a letter from the town saying they have permission to do it, because it specifically says that New Bedford has to approve what's being done over there.
So like Pat's saying, even if he don't sign, even if he sent you an email or, you know, the commission saying, hey, listen, I give you guys free range to go ahead and get the notice of intent and do this project, you know, but if we're gonna need from both sides, we have to have both sides cleared, you know?
I just don't.
Yeah, I don't, so there's no doubt that we all want this done.
Oh, you ain't kidding. Especially the north end of that pond, it is islands now.
And this is the least invasive way of doing it. So my question is, and I'm wondering if we should talk to the circuit rider about it, like what additional permits, if any, would be needed, would be my question, with it being a reservoir.
So let's ask Jeff. So Jeff's done these projects, what have his clients encountered for?
So a little background on us. We started out as police officers on the water together, and we got into this business in Fairfield County on a lake called Candlewood Lake. And we were officers for the Department of Environmental Protection at the time. We were all DEP officers. So we kind of fell into this business. So with that in mind, that our ecologically friended mind, that we wanted to make sure we were compliant with everybody, we developed this business and we took off from Connecticut. We worked from Maine all the way to Atlanta, Georgia. We do the reservoirs throughout Connecticut. We do the reservoirs for the city of Atlanta, Georgia. We're throughout New York. We're all over. So it gives you a general scope of us. As far as permitting, each state kind of has their own little caveat. For example, the state of Connecticut has said to us, go ahead, you're not cutting, so you need a permit to cut, and we're not dredging. We are literally pulling with a mechanical harvester that is completely eco-friendly. Like I said, we use it in reservoirs. So the state of Connecticut said, we don't have any way, we don't know what this really is, but we don't see any ecological impact, and it's only a positive, you're pulling invasives, so go ahead and do it. State of New York, they looked at it, they have the DEC in New York, and the DEC came out and looked at it and said pretty much the same thing. At first they said no, 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 but then some political people said you have to look at this. They came in and looked at it and said the same thing Connecticut did. We don't know what this is, so go ahead and do it, because all you're doing is mechanizing the process of pulling. So that was New York and Connecticut. New Hampshire has said that they needed permits in places where there was native species of plants, as well as in areas that are wetlands. We did some work in New Hampshire. They proved that we didn't need to go through the permitting process because everything was invasive and there was no wetlands in where we were dealing. That takes us to places, Massachusetts, we do obviously a ton of work. So the people in Littleton, we did a lot of work for, and they went through the permitting process. In Lakeville, they went through more of a familiarization with it, and they just filed their notice of intent to all the abutters on the property, and then the state in that area said, in the town said, go ahead and do it. So it's, for the lack of guidance, I guess is a better way to describe it, it's one of those where people kind of go, we don't really see a negative impact here, so go ahead and do it. I would defer, if I were you guys, obviously, to keep everything on the up and up, defer to the state, and the state is going to most likely tell you, in my opinion, that you don't have to get this permitted, just do a notice of intent to the abutters. Go ahead, yes, your question.
I just have a suggestion for Chairman Ryan.
Yep.
Why don't we have the Lake Street Committee seek the services of Mike Toohill, and have Mike Toohill draw a roadmap to permitting. I know they've done this work, and I know he did all the stuff at the golf course right around the corner, and it probably wouldn't cost him much. Would you be agreeable to that, Scott?
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
So Mike Toohill's a wetland scientist that works for Conoco Engineers. They've done work for the commission over at Keating's Quarry. They worked on the original design of the golf course. They're very experienced people, and they don't have any modifiers on their billing. They just charge what they charge. I have your email, Scott. I can email you the contact for Mike Toohill. And if you want, I'll jump in on the phone call with you guys. But he's a very practical guy. Doesn't make a big deal out of things, and I think he can help you get where you need to be.
That'd be great, thank you.
And if Jeff says that, that the state has already said, go ahead and do this to other places, this might be a real good opportunity for us to get this lakes cleaned up, And
I wouldn't count on it being that easy.
I'm not saying that easy, but it might be a lot easier than what we were thinking,
If you can get away with not going to the Army Corps, you'd be way ahead of the game. That's what
I would
I'm
definitely
thinking,
reach
and
out
that's
to
the-
Jamie and hook up with
I'm just
that.
confused because I reached out to Lakeville. I got their order of conditions, and really, the only thing they had was the special conditions with turtle protection plan and stuff like that.
Was it a reservoir?
No. Why?
Yeah.
I don't
Jeff,
know.
was Lakeville a reservoir?
I don't know. I don't know if they were.
Technically, it's not.
I can tell you that, let me just pull up something real quick. We did work in Littleton. We did Forge Pond, Long Pond, and another pond, I don't have the name of it in front of me, in Littleton. 2 of those 3 were reservoirs. And they did have to go through the permitting process.
Did they go through the Corps?
I don't believe they went through the Corps. I believe they went
That'd be a big break,
That'd be a
Yeah,
huge.
I don't think they went through the Corps, but they definitely went through and I know 2 of those 3 were definitely reservoirs because there was restrictions that was another big thing with exhaust of what our vessels use. So that was a big thing.
Where would the weeds be disposed of?
So what happens is, if you take a look at our equipment, weeds come up through a conveyor belt, almost like an old school washing machine, rips them up, the weeds come into the boat, and it's essentially a large truck bed, if you want to think of it. It's 4 feet wide, 3 feet high by about 14 feet long. They sit in this bed, in this bunk. Then when the boat's full, we drive it over to the shore, and we offload them into a dump trailer that we literally back in. The dump trailer then comes up, and we put it. So all the biologists that we've dealt with said a minimum of 50 feet with an upland review area of natural vegetation so they don't leach back into the pond or the body of water. We try and get to about 100 feet. So we take them about 100 feet up, we dispose of them, we put them out in piles, they dry out, and people either do one of a few things actually. Either let them there to decompose, they have a landscaping company come in, or the town will come in and pick them up with a backhoe and get rid of them and bury them. People have also done it where they've come in and used it as natural mulch in fertilizers in their gardens and lawns, stuff like that. But that's where they go, long and the short of it. They go into a dump trailer, get pulled at least 100 feet by us, and dumped in big rows. You'll see giant rows of them.
But you got all private property around the reservoir.
I think that the parking lot.
But we don't need to chew up a bunch of time on that. That's
Okay, we can figure that out. We'll figure that out. We'll figure out wherever they have to go.
And if you look it up, it says Long Pond is a 1,721 acre lake within the towns of Lakeville and Freetown. In southeastern Massachusetts, it shared waters with Assumpset Pond. These lakes provide a source of drinking water to the city of New Bedford, the largest city in the southeast. So,
I guess it is a reservoir.
I guess it is.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
So it is.
So that was
back to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to speak out of verse. I can answer some of these more technical questions.
I was just joking.
So, yeah, I'm just going to agree with you. Yeah, there's grades to these things, so we have to kind of see where exactly it falls jurisdictionally. But yeah, it's part of the complex that is managed as drinking water. So that would just be another layer to this, but it's just paperwork.
Right.
Okay.
So what do you think, Scott? You got your answers?
Pretty much, yeah.
Good, good, I'm so glad.
I had a question. You said that you need a permit for cutting, but not pulling?
So the majority of towns that we've dealt with, states that we've dealt with, they did require a permit to cut. So you've seen the old school harvesters that go like this, like an underwater hedge trimmer.
Yeah.
Most states require that to be permitted. The main reason is because of that fall off of you're actually spreading it's like composting your lawn. You're cutting it and leaving it there. They get majority of it out, but there's just so much breakage on it. So I believe that's why they needed the permitting. And also, I think that it was becoming so prevalent that people were just, associations throughout Connecticut, Massachusetts were going out and buying these $200,000-$300,000 harvesters and leaving them in the water, and nobody really knew what the long-term effect of that was, what they were doing with them. So I think that's where they got into the permitting issues with it. We've never had issues with it, though.
Jeff, all your hydraulics are like environmentally friendly, vegetable oil and all that stuff?
So the hydraulics, the boat holds about 70 gallons of hydraulics. Nothing off gas is below the water line. Everything off gas is above the water line. That's one big thing. The hydraulic oil is, it's a product called, off the top of my head, I want to say it's EnviroShield.
Yep.
Same thing we use in the Hammers.
I want to, it's roughly $300 for 5 gallons.
Yep.
I personally think it's linseed oil, but they won't tell me that.
I thought it was peanut oil.
It might be, I have no idea, but whatever it is, they just chose to charge us a ton of money for it. But that's what it is, it's environmentally friendly. Like I said, we do reservoirs from Atlanta, Georgia, all the way to Massachusetts, legit reservoirs, 100% federally protected, where hydraulic lines are all inspected. We go through stuff where we have, if we fill the boat with fuel, we have hazmat booms in these reservoirs that we have to put next to the boat for any type of spillage. So it's pretty rigorous with that, but yeah, it is environmentally friendly.
Right. Yeah, I mean, all right, so we got, I'm all for this project. I don't know, is there anybody here that wants to speak to this? I think this is a lot less invasive to what was originally proposed, and I think it's gonna benefit, you know, everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, how long does it usually last? Like, you know, if they pull them, like, how often are we gonna have to have someone come in and do this?
So that's a tough question. The first thing that you have to look at is where's it coming from? And what's crazy is the majority of this stuff is brought in by geese. It's transferred from pond to pond, body of water by geese. That's what brings it in, the majority of it. The rest of it comes from runoff from streets, obviously from dirty bilges and boats. That's where the other stuff comes from. So if you're going to mitigate that issue of what's bringing it in to begin with, you're going to see a decline in that. Water clarity has a lot to do with it. If the sun can't reach the dirt, it can't grow. So the clearer places that we do, the clearer waters that we do, we are there probably every year. Some of the places with darker water, we're there every 2 years, every 3 years. Some of the places with, again, the sunlight doesn't penetrate. Usually throughout this area of New England, you're not seeing sunlight past 10 feet, 12 feet. So the areas of deeper water, you don't see it getting there that much. So the short answer is, I can't tell you how long. You're going to see a huge difference, and the more you do it, the less you're going to do it. For example, we started out doing the reservoirs for the city of Atlanta. We spent 10 days on one reservoir the first year. They were completely at their wits' end. Water quality was horrible. They were literally spending millions of dollars in getting rid of their weed problem. We came in, we spent 10 days on the first reservoir. We went back 6 months later, spent 5 days, went back 6 months later, spent 3. Every year we go down as a maintenance. Now we're just once a year, and we go down as a maintenance, and we do about 3 days on each one of their 4 reservoirs that we do for them. So it kind of gives you an idea. I'm guessing you guys, you will see weeds again. You will not see what you have now. And if you don't do anything for 3-4 more years, you're going to see the problem again. But in the short term, you're not going to see anything like what you have now.
Have you put a price together yet on what this is going to cost?
We have, and let me see if I can pull it up. So we charge by the day, and this is what we tell everybody. Have us in for 1 day. If you like what we're doing, we keep going. If you don't like what we're doing, we stop. No harm, no foul, pay us for the day, we leave. for you guys where you are is $5,500 a day. That includes one of our boats, dump trailer, at least 2 trucks, and at least 2 operators. I put in here, I guesstimated at 5 days. If I tell you 5 days and I'm out of there in 3, everybody's happier.
Right.
So.
And that's for all the ponds? 5 days for all the ponds?
That is for your North Pond, North Lake, and South Lake. Your East Lake, I gotta be honest, my equipment's not gonna work in there. I have equipment that'll work in there, but it is much, much, much more labor intensive. That
bad.
Pretty far.
Yeah, so now you're just gonna have the east going from
Maybe.
one lake to the other.
So your East Lake pretty much needs to be dredged at this point. I mean, you have lost. So what happens is, as this stuff dies off, it dies off and you build biomass and biomass and biomass, and now you start to lose depth of water. So now the sun is able to get down and create more problems. So you had a rate for a body of water that used to be 12 feet, and that was 50 years ago. And now it has 4 feet, and every year it's getting worse. And now that biomass is mounting and mounting. And now that biomass has reached the surface. And that's what you're seeing on that East Lake. Again, we've done it where we've completely gone in and brought back the lake. I think that's a discussion for a later date after you guys see what we can do with your 2 main bodies of water right there. And then we could look at a pretty comprehensive plan to get that back. But that is definitely permitted. Because we are literally going to dredge and we're going to pull the spoils completely out. And we're going to get back the depth of lake and we're going to redo everything there.
So a question for you, Jeff. When you reference the East Lake, are you talking about the lake that I showed you, which has like 80% biomass in it, or are you referencing the lake that had the area where it was really, densely populated with lily pads and some of the milfoil?
I'm talking about the one that's I'm looking at a map right now. I'm looking at the one that's on the same side as North Lake. Now I might be confusing it from my memory now that I'm looking at it to the one that's directly across the street that you and I looked at.
Mm-hmm.
And I might be confusing the two.
I was just
actually thinking about.
Yeah, I was just making sure that you're not referencing Tom Davis Pond, because that one is completely gone.
Right. I'm definitely that one is completely gone. I mean, to go in and take that one back.
That would be a dredge.
I don't know where to start with that one. The one across the street, the East Lake one that's shares the parking lot with North Lake. That one is I'm guessing is going to be more difficult than North Lake and South Lake. Again, last year I could have gotten in there for probably the first 150, 200 feet around the entrance where there's kind of a depression in the land right there that we could have gotten the boats into, and seeing what we could do with that. But I'm guessing we're getting worse. So the longer we wait with it, the worse it's going to get.
Chairman, can I just on that? Chairman, may I interject so I don't keep standing up here? My comments that I sent to your agent, please feel free to take a look back at those. Some still comments in there that even though that filing, it's going to be a new filing, there's going to be some still pertinent things there. We in New Bedford monitored what was happening on Long Pond pretty closely. Same idea, came here, just kind of was a fly on the wall. We took questions from them, on record, off record. Very similar situation. One thing I just want to point out that we think, and also in the industry, they're also investing in water quality monitoring and looking at what's going on in the pond hydrologically. Part of your investment may or should involve some of that as well. Cleaning up the weeds, I think we can all agree is a good thing. Again, prescribing the pill without first getting to the root of the problem is the definition of malpractice. So just take a look at that as well. I encourage you folks. That's my final statement. If you need anything else from me, you guys can reach out to me through any means you'd like.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Thank you, Jim.
We got it. To leave one and not.
But if you don't, then the others are going to end up looking like that one.
That's what I know, but you got we kind of got to get to the root of the problem, and if that's going to transfer, how much was the other system? I know you said it's much more, but
To dredge it.
Yeah,
I gotta be honest, I haven't even, I need to actually physically get in the water and see what type of, how deep the muck is, for lack of a better word. I need to see what kind of volume I'm talking about pulling out.
What would you usually charge a day though? Just day rate?
That one is next to impossible to give you a day rate, because I have to figure out what to do with the spoils. With the spoil pile I pull out, I could pull out 300,000 yards of material out of that. And I've got to figure out how to transport it. I've got to get it tested to make sure it's not contaminated.
You've got to dewater it.
And I have to dewater it.
The Army Corps might be involved on that one.
Yeah.
I would, I mean, we've done.
You know, that one there could really.
So all alone, you'd probably be at least at 10 grand a day just in just
So
in.
you're talking telephone numbers there.
No, I'm saying 10 days a day for the excavator or whatever.
Yeah, we have hydraulic, I'm sorry, they're hydraulic excavators, but they're meant for the water. They're aquatic excavators. You can see them on our website.
Yeah.
And they can float. We'll go in and we'll pull, but I mean, I've got to get that stuff back out, and a lot of that is getting rid of it is some of my biggest problem. I mean, I'm talking probably a month and a half up there doing that whole thing. So we're in the $1,000 range.
Massachusetts has some pretty strict regulations on upland disposal of dredge.
Yep.
Right.
You blow 100,000 in testing.
Yep.
Okay, so that, I mean, we've never dredged one in Massachusetts. We've done it throughout New York, Connecticut a lot.
I have dredged.
Pennsylvania, Jersey, but I've never dredged one in Mass.
It's gonna cost you $100 a ton to get rid of it.
Wow.
I think we need a
They're gonna want you to mix it with lime so it doesn't smell.
Right. All those things.
Well, you can do like they did it on the Acushnet River and just put it on those boats and send it right out.
And that would take a Corps permit for sure.
Yeah, the Army Corps would definitely be involved with that. I agree with you 100%, Pat. I mean, I've been very much into the dredging industry, and
it's more money than the town has, so we should focus on the easy ones.
Well, I mean, these two, honestly, the money you guys dumped in there is beautiful, with the sidewalks and the guardrails. And like you said, having the recreation end of it, being able to utilize it.
And you would take that all the way north, Scott? I mean, you would be the head
Yeah,
of them?
so if I may, Jeff, could you explain exactly area-wise how much you could do in a day?
So.
Using your eco-harvester.
Right, the manufacturer of our eco-harvesters will tell you an acre an hour. That's a complete lie. Okay, I'll be the first to tell you, we have 3 of them. It depends on the density. So I can get into, depends on a few things. The boat's also very slow. When I fill it up with weeds, it's about 2,000 pounds, 2,500 pounds of weeds. So I'm about a ton and a quarter of weeds. So the boat moves about 5 miles an hour empty. When it's full, it's about 3. So if I fill up the boat, I now have to track all the way back to where I unload it. Also, the density of what I get into. The machine is very non-discriminate. It will pull everything up in its way. So I may load up the boat in 10 minutes, and it'll look like I did an area 10 by 10. It may take me an hour to do that same 10 by 10 area. And it's almost like, and I equate it to this. Now let me back up for 1 second. I'm not a sales guy. I'm a fireman. I don't know if you ever heard of Bridgeport, Connecticut, but I'm a fireman in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I used to be a police officer. My other business partner, he's a chief of police for Newtown, and my third business partner is a retired state trooper who still works on the water as a cop. So we're not sales guys. So that being said, and remember, it's like trying to pick up one piece of spaghetti as opposed to picking up a whole bunch. The deeper I get into it, the more is going to come up, and it's going to pull and pull and pull. So as far as an area, so one of the ones that Scott and I talked about was on that South Lake, on that causeway area. And if I remember correctly, the weeds started right at the riprap and went out about 35, 40 feet. So I can probably get through that area in 2.5, 3 days to get that area pretty well cleaned out. That's kind of where I was guessing. But again, once I start pulling, I'm going to be pulling more and more. I don't know what's in there.
Correct.
And it's kind of neglected for a while. So I'm thinking I can get it all done in 5 days. I really do. It might be 6, it might be 2. I don't know. So that's why we don't try and lock anybody into a contract. We don't say this is what it is and this is what you have to do. And you'll see once we start working, we start at 7 in the morning and we stop at 3:30, 4 in the afternoon. The only time we slow down is to put fuel in the boat. We don't even eat lunch, we just keep going.
So that'd be all the way up to Keene Road, out back down Carroll Street in that area?
Well, so Mr. Souza, to answer your question, my other members of the committee and I, we've had some discussions how we're going to approach this. And since Jeff had stated that east pond is going to need a lot more work, my initial thought was, let's hit both sides of the road on the big ponds. Couple of reasons for that. That's where a lot of the people fish from the street. Townspeople, as they're driving up and down that street, they're going to see a big improvement compared to what it used to look like. And they're going to say, hey, you know, the town is actually spending the money for what they said they were going to spend the money on, to actually remediate the weeds, improve the area, bring people in so that people can enjoy it. So initially, my initial thought was, we'll have Jeff come in, hit both sides of that street, maybe a 30-foot or a 40-foot swath, maybe the whole length of the road, depending upon how much time Jeff has and you know what kind of time it's going to take. Because like Jeff said, you know, the more dense the weeds, the slower that machine's going to pull, the slower it's going to move through the water, so it's going to eat up more time. So whatever Jeff can allot us for time, we'll discuss and figure out the best approach. But what we want to do is make it so that people can actually see and experience the impact. Once we get that area done along the roads, then when Jeff comes in a year later, we can expand outwards. But we want to go from the road outwards. And
Thing is, though, is like even back on Keene Road there, right now you can almost walk across there.
Yeah.
So the more you let it go, it's going to end up being wetlands and not a pond anymore.
Right. So that's one thing that we have to consider.
It's also,
You know, because I know I fish the ponds. I know how bad they are. I mean, there are vines back there that are probably 2.5 or 3 inches across.
Can't even row a canoe in there anymore.
You can't row anything in there. And if you go down that south pond, no, you go down that north pond and you go over to the right, you can't get in there in the summer.
Nope.
Can't at all. Where the pump houses are, you can't get in there in the summer. It's way too dense. So my first approach
start up close to the
would be to
road,
start up
go
close,
walk away.
so that we can show people in the town that we're actually doing something, and casual fishermen who come in can enjoy it again. And then we can work our way out. So maybe, you know, we'll do the roads first, and then maybe we'll work from the rear of the pond.
We have to think of residents first. I mean, I know you keep saying bring people in, in. Those people don't do nothing for us.
Well, that's true. Well, they do in a sense, because I'm sure
the guy selling $5.
I'm sure the owner at the Country Whip might disagree with you, because after a day of fishing, you know.
Yeah, but you also take the residents who can't use their pond that's on their property.
Right. Well, two of the gentlemen who are part of the committee live on the pond, so they have.
My mother-in-law lives on Carroll Street.
So they have more of an interest in it than I do. I don't live on the pond. I live 2 minutes away on Blueberry Drive, but I fish it, and I fished it since I was
knee-high to a grasshopper.
Yes. Okay.
Scott, I have a question when you're all set.
Yeah.
What's the money that's allocated for this? What's the round number?
So I believe currently for the weed remediation, I think we have around $73,000 or $75,000. That was left over from what was initially appropriated, I think year 1 and year 2 when we started looking at this.
Okay.
That's just kind of a ballpark figure. I don't know the exact number, but I believe around that.
So do we have a ballpark number for these 2 cleanups of these 2 ponds, a number?
Well, he's saying roughly 5 days, right?
So he's saying roughly 5 days at $5,500 a day. Off the top of my head.
And that's for both ponds?
27.5.
Yeah, 27.5.
Let's say 30 grand.
So that's for the both ponds?
Well, if Jeff can approach both ponds,
No.
yes.
It's not for both ponds, it's for the days, and you gotta.
Right. Yeah.
Well, no, but we're talking about, you know, hitting the north pond along the road and then hitting the south pond along the road.
It's not the whole pond, it's just the street area.
Yeah, I mean, the whole pond, I'd have to calculate it, because the way that I would have to approach that is, I know the areas of the pond acres, then I could, off the top of my head, kind of guesstimate the percentage of the ponds that are actually impacted by either lily pads or milfoil, and then calculate it based on Jeff's approach of $5,500 a day and come up with a grand total of what it's gonna cost. I mean, the way that we're gonna do this, we're not gonna do it all in one sweep. We're gonna approach it phase by phase.
So we're gonna spend 30 grand on the side of 2 roads.
Right. But ultimately, this is gonna be beneficial.
I agree.
So, what this discussion, we can get into the finances of it, but we wanna get this project started, and we want the permit process to go, that's, we could sit here all night. Talk nickels and dimes. We wanna get this on the right path to even get that boat in our lakes.
I agree.
So that's why I'm here today.
So, Scott, just one last question. Have you run this game plan by this company?
Oh, yes, yes,
Okay.
he and I walked the site back in August.
So they're on board with, I'm gonna call it a piecemeal cleanup?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
because Jeff and I had been in discussion. When I met Jeff back in August, and we walked the site, it took us a couple hours to walk the site, walk along the roads, along the edges of the pond. My initial discussion was with him, the way that we want to approach it in phases. Because first of all, I don't think the town has the budget to be able to knock this thing out one pond at a time, 100%.
Right.
The only economical, I mean, if we wanted to do that, that's why we initially decided on herbicides. Because herbicides, you approach the entire pond, you spread the herbicides, it takes care of the problem for you within a matter of days. But with Jeff's approach, it's more eco-friendly. It's not going to create any kind of environmental impact. It may be slower. It may require more maintenance because as you pull the weeds, it's going to snap the weeds, it's going to break the weeds are going to spread. There will be some regrowth as a result of that. Jeff and I had discussed that. But in consideration of the cranberry growers, everybody's wells that are going to be impacted if we did herbicides, I don't think the town wants that liability.
No, none of us want
that.
But this ain't gonna be just, well, let's keep maintaining the road areas every year.
No, because what my hope is that we hit that road area and then maybe we won't have to touch it for a few years. No, I mean, so Jeff had explained at one point how fast these weeds grow back.
Correct.
And it's my hope, and Jeff is much more of an expert than I am, but it's my hope that once we do a certain area, we don't have to touch it for maybe 3 years or 4 years down the road.
Well, he was saying he goes back every 6 months on some ponds that are real bad.
Well, yeah, like I said, Jeff's the expert.
What's that, Jeff?
Down south.
I'm sorry, that was down south, that's in Georgia.
Right.
I mean,
City of Georgia.
So do you think we could get a few years out of, like, if you go along them roads, clean it out, you think we're good for 3 years and you can work on other areas before you go back to those?
I would safely say yes. I would safely say that you're going to get a few years out.
I'm glad you're definitely in with us, Jeff.
Again, but it's not going to. You're going to see weeds the following year, but it's not going to look anything like it does now. You'll be able to fish in it. You'll be able to probably. I know you'll be able to roll through it. You might be able to swim through parts of it too.
Yeah, I mean,
Mr. Bailey?
Yeah, Walt Braley. My question for Jeff is, how does your machine deal with stumps in the pond?
We hit them very hard.
Stone walls.
So the stumps that we come across in the pond, like I said, the machine moves very slow, and we never go faster than we want to hit something. So we'll hit stumps, we'll hit rocks, we'll hit ground. The machine literally bounces off of it. Once in a while, we break a bearing, or we'll break part of the conveyor belt, the uptake conveyor belt. We're prepared for it. We have all kinds of extra parts on our trucks for them. But we hit it and we'll move around it, recognize where it is, and either go over the top of it, raise the system up, and go over the top of it, or just completely avoid it.
There are plenty of stumps in those ponds.
Especially near the road area.
I'll find them. Yep, I'll find everyone.
Pat, you got a comment?
Just you were starting to bring up a timeline, Ryan, and I think that if Scott talks to Mike Toohill, you could have an NOI in the door by mid-January.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Let's get it rolling, Scott.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Let's get it rolling.
Not a heavy lift.
Now, I don't know if any other committee members have anything to add?
No, I think we could have it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see that the commission is for this.
Yeah,
I mean, we're not sitting back here saying
you
we're
guys have my
fighting this.
support. I just want to do it right and by the books. You know, I don't want.
That's what we want to.
Yeah.
So,
Well, let's remember that, you know, these ponds didn't become inundated with invasive weeds overnight.
No.
This has been decades.
I know.
This has been decades of neglect by the city of New Bedford, who has ownership of these ponds, and just let them go.
Maybe we should try.
And the worst thing is, like I said, if we don't take care of it, it's gonna end up being wetland, where you walk across it in mush.
Right.
And we don't want that. They're beautiful ponds, we got people that use the water, and it's what we want.
Yeah, and once this is permanent and people see the progress, you know.
Maybe we can get more funds to move a little excessively and a little bit quicker maybe next
That's the
time.
biggest thing, and I'm in full agreement with you guys.
Yeah, well, that was my whole.
Hey, Ryan?
Yeah, got that.
You'd also have the opportunity to extend the order of conditions, you know, every 3 years and keep things going if the funding stays available, and you wouldn't have to keep going through a new permitting process.
Awesome.
So,
That's 75,000, that's only 13 days, so that's not going very far.
Well, we know that, though.
Yeah,
We're
that's
aware.
that's just to get the
And
project
that's,
started.
we don't.
Yeah, but if he goes in there for 5 days, he can go again next year for 5 days and we're still working off that same 75.
And like I
Yeah,
said,
but it all depends. Ultimately, like you said, we'd like to clean both ponds out.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that we only do as much as we can spend.
Scott, one
We have
last
so much-
question for you. Have we asked the town of New Bedford for any type of funds to
No.
help fund this project?
I believe,
What?
I believe Selectman Woolner may have made mention of it.
Could we possibly attempt this?
From what I understand, I don't believe that they have any interest whatsoever in helping
I
fund this.
think it would be in best interest to at least make another attempt at it. This is
Yeah.
a long-term
Well,
investment.
So what I plan on doing is contacting Bill Napolitano, because he has, with the work that he did with Lakeville, I believe that he was able to acquire funds from other agencies, and maybe we can look into that.
If you could, this is,
Pat, I think Pat did reach out for, you did a survey, didn't you, Pat?
On
For.
getting funds?
Yeah, wasn't it something, if you completed the survey, the state would look at it or something, and I saw an email.
Yeah, the problem is we never got our master plan up to date, so we can't get any grant money until our master plan's up to date. But there may be some environmental money available. I don't know if this could qualify as an ecological restoration project. But those are all questions we can ask Mike Toohill, Scott.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I guess, Scott, my concern is, I don't want this to become a gigantic financial burden for this town, if we're gonna take a deep dive into this. And I'm not against this project, I'm for this project. I just think we should at least go down those avenues and look.
Try to get grants wherever we can. Get money wherever we can get.
Whatever we can, so it doesn't become the sole responsibility of the taxpayers of this town.
And I completely understand, because my feeling is.
Exhaust all efforts.
Right, my feeling is the city owns it, they should help. That's
And
my.
I'm hoping that you're gonna give them that push to, throw them that sales pitch.
Hey, guys?
Yeah.
Hey, Doug, there's already been major discussions about that. And if you try and go back on the deal that the town's made, you're gonna sour somebody here. Dave Warner tried his hardest to get New Bedford to put money into this.
And they said no?
And the pitch was Acushnet cared so much about it, they're willing to pick up the tab. And if you try to go back on that
There
deal,
might be some grants.
you're gonna be trading something else here. It took a lot to get that MOU signed.
And then give us the bond.
As it is, I don't wanna push too hard with the city.
Right, but I don't want it to become a tax financial burden for this town either. That's my number one.
They're using funds that are allocated.
But
for-
those
for
funds, Ryan, are
situations
gonna
like
run
this.
out eventually. There's only
Well, our
certain.
taxes are only going higher, and and
Never get less and less and less.
2% of everybody's tax bill. That 2% is gonna,
But
it's gonna
for
be a high
ponds
number.
that we don't own, this could throw the town financially overboard.
No, not
That's
really,
not-
because he's only gonna do it in piecemeal. So if he really takes it and goes for any
Right.
kind of grant, look for everything you can, it might be where every year we can afford that 35, 40 grand a year, you know, and move it forward.
Doug,
So,
this isn't funded by taxation on real estate that leads to, you know, an override down the road somewhere. This is only from CPC money. And your community preservation money, I believe you're sitting on $500,000.
Yep.
So it's not like the town's short on money, but CPC money can be used for other things than weeds.
Okay, so then for clarification, Pat, this
I
won't,
was trying to spend that money tonight.
so this won't, so Pat, for clarification purposes, please, this won't ever affect the town and the taxpayers in this town?
Well, the CPC, I think everybody pays like 1%.
I think it's 2.
Or 1.5%.
1.5%,
into the
2%,
CPC
right.
fund.
Right.
That's all it will ever affect. It will never be voting to spend money from the general fund to do weed abatement. It'll be coming from an environmental fund that's been set up for these kind of reasons.
For community housing, historical, and open space, and this
That-
is.
I think you guys understand, and you know my thoughts and my feelings on this, and that was my concern. As Ryan stated, we pay enough taxes in this town.
I don't think
that I just wanted to make that, I wanted to air that out.
Move here and say that. All right, so you're gonna reach, Pat's gonna set you up with Mike, and,
you're gonna reach over, Jamie?
Yes.
All right.
yeah, and we'll get this ball
But
rolling.
let's talk to Mike Toohill first. Have a plan, bring the plan, you guys can bring the plan to Jamie, and it should move on from there.
Beautiful.
He's gotta go through Bedford though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can't forget that.
Right.
But just remember, we're right here with you. We want it done just as bad as you do. So.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yep.
Like I said, I've been at this since 2017, and I don't plan on giving up no matter, you know, what obstacles are in the way.
I'll tell you, I'd look for every grant, any kind of resources we can get, and as the committee of the Lake Street, put your homework together and go for it.
Yeah, very well.
Well, if the town had a planner,
Right.
we'd be able to get grants, but we haven't had a planner for a while.
Well, I thank you very much for your time.
Thanks,
Scott, we thank you too.
Scott, thank you.
Yeah, we thank you guys a lot.
And Pat, I look forward to your email.
Hey, if I don't call you by 10 o'clock, Scott, call me, please.
Certainly.
I may have a senior moment and forget to call you.
All right.
You might.
I'll reach out.
Tonight?
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Scott,
Scott.
you're welcome. Guys, thank you very much for what you guys do too. Mr. Briley, have a good evening. Mrs. Briley, you too.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate the input.
Yeah, Jeff,
Yep.
thank you. That was very good.
Have a good evening.
All right. Nope. Discussion, 2024 filing deadline schedule, 2024. Review of matters presented, votes may be taken.
Yeah, so I prepared the schedule for 2024, taking into
Got it.
consideration when she publishes. I know she goes on vacations and stops publishing like July for a couple of weeks, and then in December, the holidays fall on Wednesday, so I kind of just threw something together. I'll, you know, once you guys vote on it and approve it, I can put it on the website, have Tanya or Sydney put it on the website for everybody's viewing. And we've always got the disclaimer at the bottom that says
Subject
if
to
it needs to be,
claim.
right, if
Yeah,
she
legalize.
tells us she can't run an ad, then they just have to wait.
Yep, and then the same thing in December or whatever.
Yep.
Yep. Joanne, you sent this to me. I said I had no problem with it. You
Yep.
do a great job doing it every year.
Thank you so much.
So I will entertain a motion to accept this filing deadline and post it on the town website.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye, James
Aye.
Souza.
I had volunteer.
Aye, Brian Resendes.
Hi, Eric DeBarros.
Hi, Douglas Thomas.
All right, that's unanimous. Joanne, thank you. Agent updates, weekend emergencies.
You know,
Oh, he's already got a phone call. Look at this. You're on mute, Pat.
You're on
My
mute.
boss is on the phone from the Board of Health.
ah,
All right.
What do you need?
Weekend emergencies.
Agent updates, weekend emergencies.
It doesn't matter anymore, Ryan. You can explain that to them after the meeting ends.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
Move on.
That's a moot point at this point, you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Yeah. I just don't know when, but.
Okay. Other business, real quick, because this is a long meeting.
Yes, it is.
It doesn't really pertain to us, but I attended a conservation meeting in Middleborough via Zoom last week. They had voted to ban hunting on conservation land in Middleborough. And then last Thursday, they held a meeting to rescind that vote. There was a big turnout. Standing room only. You don't normally see that in a conservation meeting. Sometimes we do, but yeah, it's rare, and it was good to see the hunters speak out against that, and they ultimately rescinded the decision. They are trying to create a policy. I reached out to the clerk over in Middleborough, and she copied our policy, which is basically Mass General Law. So that's my recommendation to them, to Middleborough, is to stick with Mass General Law and not make it any more strict than our already strict enough regulations. So that's really all I had. It's not really anything pertaining to us. It was just, I pay attention to what's going on in conservation, and hunting is conservation.
Is Tony Kudo trying to chime in?
Oh, Tony Kudo. Any, did you have anything for us? Nope.
I had a question. No, this is where we can. You think next meeting we can put something on for addressing the town's stormwater problems? Because we got all this money earlier this year to start addressing town problems, and I haven't seen nothing done. Meanwhile, we just put $75,000 into a fund, and it's always about everybody else. And unfortunately, a lot of people ain't gonna like it, but we gotta start pointing fingers at ourselves.
Right, we have stormwater issues. Yeah, we can throw that on the agenda.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I think we gotta start figuring out what we have to do.
Well, they were already talking about sending sirens on to clean up catch basins and stuff like that, correct? And nothing's been done.
Well, and nobody was ever. Who's in charge of this money? Who's gonna tell people? Are we the ones?
No, that might.
It's all stuff we can talk about.
So that might be done through our MS4 contractor, because they're hired to check all our outfalls and all our areas of concern to do that. So,
well, we definitely need to bring it up and start check. Right. There's so much that we need to start.
We can throw that on our agenda, Joanne.
Thank you.
Under discussion for next meeting, which is the 10th.
So you want, what's it gonna be called, stormwater issues?
Yeah.
Town issues.
Town MS4.
Yeah, we can do
Stormwater MS4.
Stormwater/MS4, yeah.
Okay.
We'll talk to Pat about that, and
and see if maybe we have to go and talk to somebody else. I don't know. Are the select meeting in charge of this money? What's going on? Because we never got an answer who's in charge.
Right. I mean, well, if we're going to do it through the DPW, all that stuff.
Yeah, we got to figure this out.
Okay. So, future business. It says I will announce the next meeting due to the holiday. Our next meeting is Wednesday, January 10th, 2024.
Right.
And
January 10th, 2024, 6 p.m.
We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion. Oh, second.
All those in favor?
Hi, James Souza.
Hi, Eric DeBarros.
And I'm going to assume Doug
wants to leave.
Yes.